C1216 Not an Ordinary Dragon's Gaze. Chapter 1216 Not an Ordinary Dragon's Gaze. 1216 Not an Ordinary Dragon's Gaze. After Yuan deactivated Dragon's Gaze, everyone there could finally breathe again. And although it had only been activated for several seconds, it was enough to cripple half of the Azure Dragon family and the Emerald Dragon family's army, as those with a weak mentality had their spirits broken almost instantly after being targeted by Dragon's Gaze. For some unfortunate souls, their souls shattered under the spiritual attack, perishing from this world without a chance to reincarnate. As for Yuan's allies, since he didn't directly target them, nobody had their souls shattered. Though, many of them still suffered damage that incapacitated them for the rest of the battle. So that's what it feels like to be on the other end. Feng Yuxiang muttered in a low voice as she slowly recovered from her shock. Her face and body were soaked in a cold sweat after experiencing Dragon's Gaze directly for the first time. Lan Yingying had a similar appearance, but since she was younger than Feng Yuxiang by tens of thousands of years, she suffered significantly more. If she weren't a divine beast, her soul might have been in danger just now. "Are you okay?" Xiao Hua asked Lan Yingying after seeing her condition. "Yes. Somehow." Lan Yingying nodded after she took several deep breaths. Lan Yingying was surprised when she turned to look at Xiao Hua, whose breathing was only slightly heavier than usual, looking like she'd only gone for a light jog at the park. "You? How come you seem perfectly fine?" She couldn't help but ask. Xiao Hua looked at her own palms, and after a moment of silence, she spoke in a low voice. "I don't know, compared to everyone else there, including Shi Xingma and Shi Mingze who had the highest cultivation there, Xiao Hua appeared to be the least affected by Yuan's Dragon's Gaze." This made Lan Yingying wonder if Xiao Hua had been lucky and wasn't affected by the Dragon's Gaze as much as the rest, or if her soul was strong enough to withstand the Dragon's Gaze. After all, Dragon's Gaze is a spiritual technique that targeted one's soul, meaning that it would be less effective on those with a stronger soul, especially when compared to the one who used the technique. As everyone else slowly recovered, Shi Xingma stared at Yuan with a profound expression on his face. "I am truly sorry about that." Yuan apologized again after seeing Shi Xingma's face. "There's no need to apologize twice, I'm not angry," Shi Xingma said. And he continued in a mumbling voice, "Your Dragon's Gaze. I thought it was only a legend, but, legend?" Yuan raised an eyebrow. Shi Xingma shook his head and said, "I will explain it to you later, after we clean up this mess." "All right." Shi Xingma then approached Patriarch Shui and General Yuan, who was still in recovery from their shock. "This is your last chance to surrender. As you just witnessed for yourselves, my friend here can destroy all of your plans and forces with but a mere Dragon's Gaze. You have no chance of winning this war. If you lower your heads and surrender willingly now, I will show mercy and give you two a painless death. However, if you still wish to struggle, I will make it my life's mission to make your lives as miserable as possible until you die of natural causes." General Yuan and Patriarch Cui's bodies tremble violently after hearing such a threat. With lifespans spanning 500,000 years at their cultivation with ease, the mere mention of enduring torment for such an eternity sent chills through their weakened souls, evoking an unimaginable dread that echoed throughout their entire being. General Yuan, who was already on his knees, kissed the ground with his forehead and said, "I surrender. Please, have mercy." Even if Patriarch Liang and General Zheng were still alive, he doubted they would be able to defeat a monster like Yuan. Patriarch Shui also surrendered after seeing General Yuan's response, which did not surprise Shi Xingma in the slightest. If he were in their shoes, he would also surrender without any hesitation. As long as someone like Yuan protected the Shi family, nothing in this world would be able to threaten them, and he was only but a single entity. When their leaders General Yuan and Patriarch Yuan surrendered, the Azure Dragon family and the Emerald Dragon family's soldiers dropped their weapons and kowtowed before the ancient dragon city. Unbelievable. A war yet to truly begin, yet ended with just a single glance. Who on earth is this enigmatic expert? General Sun and the others on his side wondered inwardly as they stared at Yuan's handsome face with unfathomable respect and admiration. "Is it really over?" Shi Murong swallowed nervously, his face full of disbelief. "General Sun. Take everyone here away. Shi Xingma suddenly roared. As you command, Your Majesty. General Sun shouted back. Over the next few hours, General Sun and the Shi family's forces would swiftly seize the surrendered enemy troops and imprison them. However, due to the sheer amount of prisoners, the Shi family had to create temporary prisons just to hold them all. Meanwhile, Yuan and the Shi family returned to the palace. I truly do not know how to thank you for your assistance this time, Yuan. Even if I gave you my position as the Dragon Emperor of this small world, it would still not be enough. Shi Xingma sighed. You are still thinking about such a thing? Just forget it. Yuan smiled. And he asked, anyways, what now? Although the majority of the invaders have surrendered, there is still much to be done with the Azure Dragon family and the Emerald Dragon family, not to mention the cities they rule over. Shi Mingzi sighed out loud. We'll have to investigate everything thoroughly and properly, and that alone could take years. For now, I will send some of our men to take control over their cities so that it doesn't become too chaotic. After all, with the Azure Dragon family and the Emerald Dragon family out of the picture, there will be people eyeing their position. Once things settle down, we will begin our investigation, Shi Xingma said. What about you, Yuan? How much longer will you be staying here? Now that you mention it, I haven't thought about that at all. Though, I probably won't be staying here for much longer, at least until everything settles down and I am certain that there is nothing left that could threaten your family. Thank you. Shi Xingma nodded with a rare smile on his face. Oh, and before I forget, you mentioned something about my dragon's gaze. Yuan suddenly reminded him. Shi Xingmo's expression became serious, and he spoke, indeed. The dragon's gaze you used back then. It wasn't your ordinary dragon's gaze. How so? Yuan raised an eyebrow. Well, normally, dragon's gaze will only work on those you have direct eye contact with, but what you did was anything but that, as it affected even those you were not looking at. Shi Xingma said. After taking a moment to think, he continued, according to a family legend, there exists a superior version of dragon's gaze that only those with the purest and strongest bloodline could wield, and my father would call it dragon's authority. C1217 Dragon's Authority. Chapter 1217 Dragon's Authority 1217 Dragon's Authority Dragon's Authority? Yuan mumbled, his eyes flickering with excitement. Indeed. According to my father's knowledge, dragon's gaze can be used by any dragon with a royal bloodline, or what humans call an imperial grade bloodline. However, dragons with a divine grade bloodline will have access to dragon's authority, which, as its name suggests, gives them authority over dragons. Shi Xingma said. Yuan then said, that sounds like those with dragon's authority can command other dragons, exactly. As long as their target has an inferior bloodline or a weaker soul strength, they can essentially command them to do anything. Shi Meili and Shi Murong swallowed nervously after hearing this. They cannot imagine being affected by dragon's authority and forced to do things unwillingly. Of course, they experienced it firsthand very recently, but it wasn't directed at them, so they didn't count it. Dragon's authority, huh? How interesting. Shi Mingzi, on the other hand, seemed intrigued by its concept and effects. She turned to look at Yuan with a smile. Would you like to practice on me? What are you saying? Shi Xingma looked at her with a dumbfounded expression. I don't think he's mastered it yet, so I want to help him to do so. I doubt anyone here besides you and I will be able to endure it without being injured, so unless you want to be the dummy, after pondering for a moment, Shi Xingma sighed, all right, just don't take things too far. He turned to look at Yuan and continued, this is the least we can do to thank you. Thank you. Yuan nodded. Well, start training in a few days once things settle down. Shi Mingzi said, and she continued, you should get some rest for now. Yuan retired to his room shortly after. Meanwhile, Shi Mingzi and Shi Xingma continued to deal with the incident. As for Shi Meili, she went to get her injuries checked before getting some rest. However, Yuan did not go to sleep. He lay on the bed and closed his eyes, but his consciousness was wide awake as he went through the dragon goddess memories. Meanwhile, Shi Xingma went to the Azure Dragon City to take control of their city. He captured everybody from the Azure Dragon family and those with a connection, interrogating all of them intensively over the next several days. Shi Xingma was shocked to learn that the Azure Dragon family had been planning and preparing their invasion for over 1 million years now. He also learned that the majority of the Azure Dragon family had been kept out of the loop, so these people were just as surprised as everyone else when they learned what had happened. Meanwhile, Shi Mingzi traveled to the Emerald Dragon City to investigate the Emerald Dragon family. She was surprised to learn that pretty much nobody in the city even had an idea about the incident, only learning about it after her arrival. As for the Azure Dragon City, they were alerted by the commotion caused by Yuan, so they believed that they were the ones being invaded. During his investigation, Shi Xingma found Liang Xian, who had been hiding like a rat inside the city. Shi Xingma immediately sent Liang Xian back to the ancient dragon city for questioning, as he was essentially as rooted in the incident as Patriarch Liang. When Shi Meili learned of this discovery, she personally volunteered to do the investigation. Shi Xingma objected at first, but he eventually gave in and allowed Shi Meili to handle Liang Xian's investigation. Once Liang Xian was in her hands, Shi Meili said to the guards, "Uncuff him and treat his injuries." What? The guards were baffled by her commands. "Just do it. As you command." Once Liang Xian fully recovered from his injuries, Shi Meili dragged him to the training area within the Dragon Palace. What are you planning on doing to me, Shi Meili? Liang Xian growled at her. Nothing much. We're just going to spar a little. Shi Meili casually responded. Spar. Liang Xian had a confused look on his face. If you can defeat me, I will let you go. However, if I win, you will tell me everything you know. How does that sound? Are you serious? Of course. Princess. You cannot decide such a thing without His Majesty's approval first. The guards began panicking. Shut up. My father already gave me permission to do whatever I want to him. Shi Meili snapped at them. She then turned to Liang Xian and continued, "There will be no limitations and no rules. Do you have anything to say before we begin? What if I kill you?" Liang Xian asked. Do you really think that is possible? Shi Meili sneered. Shi Meili and Liang Xian had similar cultivation, both being at the peak of Spirit Emperor. However, Shi Meili has superior techniques and a superior bloodline. Although the chances of Liang Xian defeating Shi Meili were close to zero, it was not completely impossible. All right. Don't you dare go back on your words, Liang Xian said with a slight smile on his face. Their sparring began shortly after. And over the next several hours, the guards there would bear witness to a brutal beating that could only be described as unbearable. Shi Meili was beating Liang Xian so badly that it could no longer be called a spar, but a one-sided torture. Liang Xian's blood stained the stage, pieces of his flesh scattered about, and all of his teeth were laying around in a shattered state, resembling dust more than anything. Me, RCY. Liang Xian's face was so swollen and bloodied that he could barely utter these words. What did you just say? I can't hear you. Shi Meili calmly said before driving her fist directly into Liang Xian's guts, forcing him to puke out a mouthful of fresh blood. When Liang Xian fell to his knees for the umpteenth time, Shi Meili gracefully kicked him in the face, sending him flying to the other side of the arena and drawing another bloody line on the platform. She then walked over to him and forcefully fed him some medicine. After making sure he swallowed the medicine, Shi Meili stood there with her bloodied arms crossed in front of her chest, patiently waiting for Liang Xian to stand back up. Dear Lord. The guards shuddered in fear, as they have never seen this brutal side of Shi Meili before. C1218 Dragon Goddess Yeyou. Chapter 1218 Dragon Goddess Yeyou. 1218 Dragon Goddess Yeyou, why are you still on the ground? Get up. Shi Meili looked down upon Liang Xian with a slight frown on her face when he refused to stand up even after recovering. I had enough. Can we just end this? He responded in a tired voice, seemingly out of the energy and will to continue. Of course, we can end it right now, but are you sure you want to die already? She merely calmly said. Liang Xian's body trembled upon hearing her words, which basically told him that he'd die if he gave up. Liang Xian mumbled in an inaudible tone a moment later. Huh? What did you say? Shi Meili subconsciously leaned forward. I said, die. Liang Xian suddenly sprang into action and went for Shi Meili's throat with his claw-like hands, his gaze bursting with killing intent. A cold smile appeared on Shi Meili's face, and almost as if she anticipated his trick, she gracefully dodged his grasp with ease before grabbing his hand and crushing it with immense strength. Arg! Liang Xian screamed out in pain as his hand became unrecognizable and many times smaller than originally. How pathetic. Shi Meili sneered afterward. And you wanted me to marry you? When you're this weak and despicable? You make me laugh. Her words were like sharp swords piercing Liang Xian's heart. Not only was she tormenting him physically, she damaging him mentally as well. Shi Meili would continue to torment Liang Xian without stopping over the next several days until Liang Xian truly couldn't continue any longer. I'm bored. Well, continue this another day. Shi Meili said to him. Guards. Take him away for questioning. If he fails to answer a single question, bring him back here and call for me. After saying such words to the dazed guards, Shi Meili went to clean herself. And once that was done, she tried to see Yuan. Unfortunately, Yuan was not available for some reason. Is he in closed cultivation? Shi Meili wondered out loud as she left his doorstep. Meanwhile, Yuan was still busy looking through Dragon Goddess Yu's memories. Despite it only being a small fragment of her memories, it contained more than 100,000 years worth of memories. At the beginning of her memories, Yuan could only see complete darkness, almost as though he was in the void. This scenery remained like that for thousands of years, which made Yuan wonder if there was something wrong with the memories at first. Eventually, something changed. A slit of horizontal light appeared in this darkness, slowly growing larger until Yuan could see new scenery. It was at this moment that Yuan realized the darkness was simply the dragon goddess Yeyou sleeping. When dragon goddess Yeyou awoke from her 1,000-year-long slumber, she was first greeted by a tall figure standing not far away from her. However, when compared to her own size, this tall figure was only but the size of an ant, so in her eyes, it was akin to being disturbed by an insect. Dragon goddess Yeyou was about to curse at this figure, but before she got the chance, this figure spoke first. I hope I didn't disturb your slumber, dragon god. And what will you do if you did? Die for me? Dragon goddess Yeyou responded. You can try to kill me if you'd like, but I would like to request that you do so after we have a little chat. I have nothing to say to a human. Dragon goddess Yeyou sneered. She also did not miss the small detail of try to kill in his speech, which implies that she might not be able to kill him. Normally, she'd kill someone this disrespectful without giving them another thought, but she just woke up from a long slumber and couldn't be bothered to move around so soon, and there was something about this human that she could not pinpoint. The figure chuckled, Don't be like that, dragon god. When was the last time you spoke to a human? 1,000,000 years ago? 10 million? It has been at least 100 million years since dragon goddess Yeyou has spoken to a human, but she did not admit such a thing to this human. Well, we don't really need to chat if you don't want to. Instead, just listen to me. This human continued to speak without an ounce of fear in his voice, which puzzled dragon goddess Yeyou, as she has never encountered a human that did not fear her. In fact, even demons that were known to have no fear would show signs of fear when they encounter her. Does this human not understand what it means to be fearful? No, even those who have never experienced fear would instinctively be fearful of me. Perhaps he's not actually human. Dragon goddess Yeyou wondered inwardly as the human continued to speak. As you probably know by now, the war between humans and demons has finally come to an end after countless years of strife. Although most are celebrating by now, I cannot help but wonder why humans had to fight the demons alone even though the beasts also suffered from their torment. After all, if we, humans and beasts, had fought together, the war could have ended much sooner. What? Humans defeated the demons? Do you take me for an ignorant dragon, enough to believe such blatant lies? Dragon goddess Yeyou did not believe the human initially. But the human seemed more surprised by the fact that she did not know about the end of the war even though hundreds of thousands of years have passed. It appears I have underestimated the amount of sleep a supreme dragon requires. The human spoke with a profound smile on his face, looking as though he was delighted to learn this information. Anyways, you are free to do your own research if you do not believe me, but it has been approximately 400,000 years since humans defeated demons. I'm even willing to wait until you confirm my truth before we continue this chat. Dragon goddess Yeyou was speechless, and she found this human to be increasingly interesting with every passing second, but this fact would not be realized by her for a very long time. Chapter 12:19. Published at 19th of September 2023 3:30 and 15 seconds AM. Chapter 12:19. 12:19. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 12:19. Dragon goddess Yeyou. 2. 12:19. Dragon goddess Yeyou. 2. Let's say I believe you, that the weak and fragile existence known as humans managed to defeat the somewhat immortal beings known as demons. What does that have to do with me? Why are you standing before me? Dragon goddess Yeyou asked the human man standing calmly before her. Even though humans won the war in the end, it came at a tremendous cost. Countless humans have been tormented, eaten, killed, and experienced unspeakable things. I'm sure the same could be said for beasts, as demons would hunt beasts for fun, almost like a game, something they do to pass time until they grow hungry for humans. Both humans and beasts suffered greatly from demons, yet we never fought together. I understand that we have our differences, but we could have prevented much tragedy from happening if we did. Perhaps that is because nobody tried, whether it be due to a lack of courage or something else. Hence why I am here today. Dragon goddess Yeyou did not respond for a long time. After a long moment of silence, Dragon goddess Yeyou spoke in a low voice. So what, you want humans and beasts to hold hands or something? The human could hear a hint of mockery and disdain within the dragon goddess' voice. Not being bothered by it, he spoke. I am not saying that we should hold hands with each other, but I would like to see a day when humans can approach beasts without fearing for their lives and beasts won't feel threatened by humans when they are approached, just like you and I. Dragon goddess Yeyou suddenly burst out laughing, causing the world they were on to shake violently. In fact, her laughter was so strong that if the human hadn't covered himself with spiritual energy, he would have died an explosive death. When she stopped laughing, she spoke. Even if what you say is true, that humans and beasts do not get along, what can you do to change it? How do you intend on convincing all of the humans to not fear beasts and beasts to not despise humans? That seems like an impossible feat no matter how I think about it. The human shook his head. I don't need to convince every human and beast. I only need to convince those at the top and everyone else will eventually follow suit. And what could be better than starting from the very peak? How about it, Dragon God? Want to work together with me? I'm sure it'll be a whole lot more interesting than sleeping and fighting weaklings all the time. Dragon goddess Yeyou narrowed her eyes and asked in a cold voice, you speak as though you know my life. Well, according to what I've been told, you like to pick fights with other beasts, but because of your unmatched prowess, you have an extremely hard time finding worthy opponents, so you just bully others until you grow tired and sleep, and when you wake up, you will repeat the cycle again and again. If I am wrong, please correct me. I'd like to learn more about a being at the apex of this world. Dragon goddess Yeyou fell silent and the human could not tell what she was thinking or feeling, but Yuan could, as he was seeing and feeling things from her point of view. He could tell that the dragon goddess was embarrassed and angered by the human's words, as he essentially called her lazy and a bully. Even worse, she could not argue back, as what the human said about her was true. Due to her being one of the apex beings in the world, it was pretty much impossible to find someone who could match her prowess, so she is always bored and looking to entertain herself. After finding some beasts to mess around with, she would slumber for thousands of years in hopes of a worthy opponent to appear, and this has been her routine for countless years now. To be reminded of such a miserable life made her embarrassed and angry at the same time. In a slightly trembling voice, Dragon goddess Yeyou responded, very well, if you insist, I will entertain you and your foolish ambitions. However, I will do so only if you can defeat me. Otherwise, you can die here with your ambitions." Without any other warnings, Dragon Goddess Yu's golden eyes began emitting a profound light. Suddenly assaulted by Dragon Goddess Yu's dragon's gaze, the human directly coughed up a mouthful of blood, but that was not enough to make him collapse. As expected of the dragon god, a slight smile appeared on the human's face as he retrieved a black sword. "But if you want to kill me, you will need to do better than that." The human swung the sword at Dragon Goddess Yeyou, sending a massive sword light that was fully created from enhanced sword aura at her. Dragon Goddess Yeyou merely scoffed at his attack before swatting the sword light with nothing but her tail, causing the enhanced sword aura to scatter and fly everywhere. The scattered enhanced sword aura poured down the world Dragon Goddess Yeyou was on, creating deep sword cuts everywhere. "You bastard! How dare you damage my bed? Do you have any idea how long it took me to find a world big enough to fit me comfortably?" Dragon Goddess Yeyou roared in an enraged tone as she uncoiled her massive body from the world that she had been sleeping on, revealing a vast yet completely empty world that only had green grass growing on it. "You can't complain when you're the one who attacked first," the human said as he wiped the blood from his lips. This enraged Dragon Goddess Yeyou even further, but she did not immediately attack him again. She wrapped the end of her tail around the world she called her bed and flicked it, shooting the world millions of miles in the blink of an eye and causing it to disappear into the void. The human couldn't help but chuckle after seeing her actions. "You weren't kidding when you said it was hard to find a suitable bed. I'm not surprised, though, seeing how big you are. Why don't you take the form of a human? It'll be easier for you to move around that way. You insolent human bastard." Dragon Goddess Yeyou felt insulted when the human called her body big. No matter if they are beasts or humans, whether it was true or not, it was taboo to call females big. Meanwhile, the human misunderstood Dragon Goddess Yu's anger, thinking that it was due to his suggestion to take the form of a human, as that was unthinkable in their era. For a beast to take the form of a human, it was akin to a human moving and barking like an animal, an insulting act that only those unhealthy in the mind would dare imagine. The human knew this, of course. Despite that, he still suggested it to her for some reason. Following an explosive roar, Dragon Goddess Yeyou proceeded to attack the human seriously this time, marking the beginning of their long battle that would not end for several years. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. C1220 The Great Enlightenment. Chapter 1220 The Great Enlightenment. 1220 The Great Enlightenment. Within days of Dragon Princess Yeyou and the humans' fight, over a dozen stars had been reduced to mere rubble floating in the starry sky. Every time their overwhelming spiritual energy collided with each other, a world-ending and stark-collapsing ripple would sweep the starry sky. The commotion caused by their fighting eventually alerted the experts cultivating in the starry sky, and regardless if they are human or beast, they were shocked by what they witnessed. The beasts couldn't believe their eyes when they realized Dragon Goddess Yu's opponent was a mere human man. As for the humans, many of them were seeing Dragon Goddess Yeyou for the first time, and they were simply baffled by her majestic presence and unfathomable strength. Who is that human? And why is he fighting with the Dragon Goddess? He's actually holding his own against a monster like her. I didn't think I would get to see someone fighting on equal footing with her in this lifetime, much less a human. I doubt hell lasts for long. More importantly, Dragon Goddess Yeyou has awoken. We need to warn the others and prepare for another 10,000-year-long torments before their fight ends. After watching their fight for a short while, most of the beasts stopped watching and left to warn other beasts of Dragon Goddess Yu's awakening. After all, every time Dragon Goddess Yeyou wakes up from her slumber, the first thing she always does is look for a fight. What? The Dragon Goddess has awoken from her slumber already? Why did she wake up so quickly this time? Apparently some human woke her up, and they're now fighting each other in the starry sky. Fucking humans. They're always making things more difficult for us. At least hell die by the Dragon Goddess claws. All of the beasts expected the human to last only several days against dragon goddess Yeyou, but to their surprise, they were still fighting even several months later. What? The dragon goddess is still fighting the same human? She must be going easy on him so that it wouldn't end too quickly. That must be why. Right? Even the water dragon emperor can't last more than half a year against her, and he has never lost to any humans before. The beasts truly believed that dragon goddess Yeyou was going easy on the humans so that she could prolong their fight on purpose, something she has done on multiple occasions, especially when she is extremely bored. The beasts stopped paying attention to the fight shortly after and continued their preparations again. Eventually, months turned into years, and years became decades. The beasts were absolutely gobsmacked when they learned that dragon goddess Yeyou was still being occupied by the same human even after 10 years. I just traveled to the starry sky and spectated the dragon goddess fight. She's not going easy on that human. In fact, she's seriously trying to kill him. One of the beasts spread this information after watching the fight for some time. I was there, as well. There were many spectators, humans, and beasts. A human rivaling the dragon goddess? How can such a powerful human exist? Who is this human? For the first time since their fight began, the beasts started paying attention to the fight more closely and began questioning the human's identity. Meanwhile, the humans have been watching the fight since the beginning. Some of them even gained enlightenment from watching their fight. When news began spreading, more and more experts began to spectate their fight. Of course, since the fight took place within the starry sky, only those who had the means and resources to travel there could witness the legendary fight. Immortals, disciples of these immortals, all sorts of renowned individuals would travel to the starry sky and risk their lives just to witness the fight. Due to the tremendous spiritual energy being released by the dragon goddess and the human, their clashes created life-threatening shockwaves that shattered nearby stars and evaporated those who got too close to their fight, regardless of their cultivation, and even immortals have perished to the shockwaves. Despite the risks, countless people still ventured to the starry sky, and throughout the years, many people gained enlightenment from their fight and achieved great things, and this period of time was called the Great Enlightenment by many. Master, how many years have they been fighting for now? A disciple asked. It would be the 69th year in 3 days. They have been fighting for that long? How is that even possible? Do they have an unlimited supply of spiritual energy or something? Another disciple asked. Entities at their level have an unfathomable amount of spiritual energy, but it's mostly their spiritual energy absorption rate that's keeping them going. They only use about the same or fewer than they can absorb, allowing them to fight for a prolonged amount of time. While it may not seem like that to us, who are far beneath their level, they're not really going all out. Then how do they defeat each other? When one makes a mistake or catches the other off guard and deals a decisive blow. Though, they will eventually start using more and more spiritual energy in their attacks. As of right now, they're simply just using each other for entertainment. So they're just playing around right now? Unbelievable. Logic does not apply to entities at the peak of this world. Try not to think too much about it, or you will go insane like some people. As for the beasts, they also gained enlightenment, especially those of the dragon race. Have we found out anything about that human's identity? One of the beasts there asked. No, nothing. It's almost as though he appeared out of thin air. We don't even know if he's really human or not. For all we know, he could be a ghost. Just who is that man? Despite their differences, both humans and beasts wanted the fight to last forever, but alas, everything in life will eventually come to an end, and after 200 years of constant fighting, the fight finally came to an end with a clear winner and loser. C1221 Not even 1,000 years old. Chapter 1221 Not even 1,000 years old 1221 Not even 1,000 years old Dragon goddess Yeyou took deep breaths as she silently stared at the human man floating in the distance not far away from her, her gaze filled with emotion and fulfillment. Yuan could see very clearly what she was thinking inside her head. It has been countless years since she last experienced a satisfying fight that did not leave her wanting more. Although I was clearly beyond his league in the beginning, this bastard kept improving at an astonishing rate, and in just a few decades, he reached the point where he could fight me on equal footing. Just who is this bastard? Dragon Goddess Yeyou felt like she had been used by the human man as a training dummy. However, she wasn't angry, as she also benefited greatly from the fight. Meanwhile, the human had a bittersweet smile on his face as his body lifelessly drifted further away from the dragon goddess, who was victorious in this fight. I had an amazing time with you during the last 200 years. Unfortunately, it lasted a little shorter than I had anticipated. Perhaps if I hadn't given in to my impatience and trained for another 1,000 years, I might have been able to realize my ambitions. The human man uttered in a weak voice as his life force continued to dwindle. It was only a matter of time before he met his death after exhausting all of his energy and life force that he sacrificed to prolong their fight. However, when Dragon Goddess Yeyou heard his last words, her satisfied expression immediately froze. Then in a low and grim voice, she asked him, another 1,000 years. How old are you? I should be around 950 years old now. The human man responded with difficulty. What did you say? Dragon Goddess Yu's eyes widened with immense disbelief and shock. I am possible. She roared, refusing to believe that she was nearly defeated by a human that wasn't even 1,000 years old. When the spectators learned that the human man was actually younger than the majority of them there, they also expressed a wide array of emotions, but mostly that of shock and disbelief. Almost everyone there was well over 100,000 years old, with some even numbering in the millions, yet nobody there would even dare to attempt to fight an entity like the dragon goddess. But somehow a human that isn't 1,000 years old managed to last 200 years fighting the dragon goddess? Nobody would want to believe such a thing even if they witnessed it with their own eyes, as such an existence naturally mocked their talents and efforts all the way to the heavens. He must be joking. There's no way he's only 950 years old. That would mean he was only 750 years old when he started fighting. I barely reached Divine Sovereign by that age, and I was recognized as a once-in-lifetime genius by the entire world. A renowned human expert there expressed his thoughts, feeling like he was on the verge of an existential crisis, breaking the silence there. The thousands of experts there immediately began mumbling to each other as they wondered if the human man was speaking of the truth or simply lying on his deathbed for shock value. The fact that nobody here recognizes him gives his claims some credit. That means nothing. He could be really old, so old that nobody here recognizes him. Someone else made this argument. As someone who has lived for over 5 million years, I can say that I have never heard of him before. With that being said, I have this nostalgic feeling when I see his face, yet I cannot recall where I have seen that face before. Meanwhile, Dragon Goddess Yeyou slowly recovered from her shock, and after pondering for a brief moment, she suddenly approached the human man. When she arrived before the human, Dragon Goddess Yu's body began emitting a blinding light that turned the void completely white for a brief moment. When the light dimmed, the massive dragon that could easily swallow a world was nowhere to be seen, and another human figure suddenly appeared in the starry sky, hovering right before the human man. This figure was that of a woman with ethereal beauty and a divine aura, resembling a goddess created by heaven itself. Her being was a tapestry of awe-inspiring elements. Her cascading, silken golden hair flowed like an endless river behind her, a manifestation of grace. Her eyes, a radiant gold, held both the brilliance of the sun and the depth of ancient wisdom, their vertical pupils reminiscent of a feline's gaze. Possessing a stature both tall and slender, her form seemed to bridge the realms of the ethereal and the earthly. Adorned with golden halos encircling her wrists and ankles, she bore an aura that whispered of a world beyond their current one. The human men there were instantaneously enraptured by the emergence of this unparalleled beauty, stirred by an emotion long lost to their memories. Even the beasts present were entranced by her presence, despite her humanoid guise that they have disdained for their entire lives. The dragon goddess has taken the form of a human. The beasts were in disbelief when they realized the situation. The transformation of a beast into a human was not merely a shift in appearance, it symbolized a profound change, a voluntary descent from a state they considered superior to embody the very beings they had spurned and considered inferiors. Moreover, dragon goddess Yeyou far transcended the realm of ordinary creatures. As a divine beast, she occupied the pinnacle of the cultivation world and the hierarchy of all beasts. Her choice to assume human form was an unprecedented event, one that would forever change the way other beasts and humans viewed her. I had always regarded humans as lesser beings, unworthy of even a fragment of my esteem or notice. Yet, a human who has existed for a mere fraction of the time it takes me to nap has somehow bewildered me and ignited my curiosity. Dragon Goddess Yeyou gently held her hands on her chest, retrieving an orb of light from within her body. It would be a pity to let you die now, human. She then blew at the orb of light in the human's direction, causing the orb of light to fly into his lifeless body. The human man's body began emitting a warm light, and the injuries on his body immediately started disappearing at a rate that could be witnessed with one's bare eyes. I am not doing this out of mercy, nor is this an act of righteousness. This is merely a self-centered endeavor on my part. Until you quench my curiosity, I will not let you die. After the human man's injuries were fully mended, and even his life force had been rejuvenated, which only took mere seconds, he gradually opened his eyes. The human was sure that he had perished, yet he somehow survived. He looked at the beauty hovering before him and immediately realized the situation, and he proceeded to speak with a slight smile. So you were a female all along? I couldn't tell by your beastly voice. Dragon Goddess Yu's eyebrows uncontrollably twitched upon hearing his words, but she quickly controlled her emotions and asked, "What is your name?" I hadn't introduced myself yet. My apologies. After adjusting his posture, he continued with a handsome smile on his face, "My name is Tian-E." C1222 Primordial Phoenix. Chapter 1222 Primordial Phoenix 1222 Primordial Phoenix Tian-E. So, what do you plan on doing now that you have my attention? Dragon Goddess Yeyou asked him. An awkward smile appeared on Tian-E's face as he responded, "To tell you the truth, I don't have a plan. In fact, I hadn't planned past meeting you, as I didn't expect to find you so quickly in this vast universe. It must be the work of fate. But I'm sure we'll figure it out." Unbelievable. You really came to me without a plan? What if I did not save you and left you to die instead? Then that would be that. After all, I had prepared on losing my life before meeting you. But that didn't happen, and with you by my side now, I doubt anything could threaten my life. Dragon Goddess Yeyou frowned. Why are you assuming that I will be following you? You want? Well, that's fine as well, since you will definitely be watching over me at the very least. Tian-E chuckled. Dragon Goddess Yeyou was speechless. By the way, Dragon Goddess, what is your name? Do you even have one? Of course, I have a name. Why did you assume otherwise? Nobody I talked to knew it and only addressed you as the Dragon God even though they were aware of your existence, so I wondered if you had a name or not. Yeyou, that is my name. And how do you want me to address you from now on? Goddess Yeyou? Dragon Yeyou? Dragon Goddess Yeyou? Lady Yeyou? Until you can defeat me, I forbid you from using my name. Dragon Goddess Yu's reason for making this rule was so that she had an excuse to fight him again. Is that how things work for you guys? Then I will call you Dragon Goddess until then. Tian-E calmly smiled. She calmly nodded. Anyways, while I don't have a plan, I do know who I want to visit next. Tian-E then said. A divine beast? Dragon Goddess Yeyou asked. He nodded, an ancient beast just like you. One known as Empress of Flames and Goddess of Rebirth, Primordial Phoenix. Dragon Goddess Yeyou suddenly sucked her teeth in an annoyed manner. Tian-E looked at her with raised eyebrows and asked, "What's the matter?" "Nothing worth mentioning, but if you're going to see that dumb pigeon, I want to accompany you to see her." Dumb pigeon? I guess even divine beasts have their own drama. Tian-E couldn't help but crack a smile upon learning this information. Don't go making your own assumptions. I wouldn't stoop so low to have drama with a stupid chicken. She's not worth it. Tian-E pondered for a moment before speaking. I have heard that dragons and phoenixes naturally don't get along. There seems to be some truth to this rumor. Is there a reason why you don't like the primordial phoenix? Phoenixes are born arrogant, and the primordial phoenix is the most arrogant of them all. I simply can't stand being around her. Dragon Goddess Yeyou said. Tian-Yi looked at her with a weird expression. Dragon Goddess Yeyou frowned at this and asked, "Why are you looking at me like that?" Well, in the eyes of humans, dragons are also arrogant creatures. How rude. We're prideful. Not arrogant. There's a difference. Dragon Goddess Yeyou rebuked. But she did not stop there. Meanwhile, phoenixes are obviously arrogant. They have no pride, are shameless, selfish, and, after spending several minutes complaining about phoenixes and comparing them with dragons, Dragon Goddess Yeyou finally ended it with, "Do you now understand why phoenixes and dragons don't get along?" Yes. I think I do. Tian-Yi said with a slight smile. Do you still want to meet her? Dragon Goddess Yeyou then asked. Of course. Regardless of her personality, even if it's the nastiest in the world, I still want to speak with her, just like how I came to speak with you even at the risk of my own life. You're a weird human. Once their conversation ended, Tian-Yi left the scene to find the primordial phoenix. Fortunately for him, the primordial phoenix wasn't as hard to find compared to Dragon Goddess Yeyou, as she had a larger presence with the world while Dragon Goddess Yeyou barely interacted with the world. As for Dragon Goddess Yeyou, although she claimed that she wouldn't follow Tian-Yi to meet with the primordial phoenix, she still tagged along in the end, acting as though she never said such a thing. Tian-Yi didn't question it either. Thus, the two of them traveled the world for several years in search of the primordial phoenix, following traces left behind by her. After a decade of following the primordial phoenix's footsteps, Tian-Yi finally located her. Is this how you found me? Dragon Goddess Yeyou asked him as they made their way to the primordial phoenix's location. Yes, but much fewer people knew of your existence compared to the primordial phoenix, who is much more active than you. Not only does she have connections with humans, she's even got a business in the human world, much to my surprise. Her existence is the closest representation of my ambitions right now. If that's the case, why did you seek me out first? Wouldn't it benefit your ambitions more if you had gone to the primordial phoenix first? Dragon Goddess Yeyou looked at him with a puzzled expression on her ethereal face. That's simple. I came to you first because my desire to meet you was stronger than my desire to see her. Tian-Yi responded with a handsome smile on his face. His response left Dragon Goddess Yeyou speechless. Several more months passed as Tian-Yi and Dragon Goddess Yeyou left the world known as Divine Heaven and traversed into the starry sky to find the primordial phoenix. That must be the primordial phoenix, also known as Feng Yumming. Tian-Yi mumbled in a low voice as he could see a small ball of flames in the distance. Although the primordial phoenix looked tiny from his position, they were actually millions of miles apart, so it was akin to looking at a star from Earth. Tian-Yi turned to look at Dragon Goddess Yeyou and asked her, should I meet her alone? No, I will come with you. I want to see if she's gotten any dumber since our last meeting. Dragon Goddess Yeyou said. Tian-Yi could only smile at her remarks. Then, they chased after her, catching up within minutes. Chapter 1223. Published at 19th of September 2023 3:30 and 9 seconds AM. Chapter 1223. 1223. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1223 Primordial Phoenix 2. 1223 Primordial Phoenix 2. When Dragon Goddess Yeyou and Tian-Yi got close enough, the primordial phoenix halted its movements and sprung around, sending its divine flames flying all over the place. Tian-Yi calmly dodged the flames that could easily burn even an immortal to death in an instant. Meanwhile, Dragon Goddess Yeyou merely flicked the flames away from her body like she was swatting away flies. Sneaking up behind me, are you looking for an early death? The primordial phoenix spoke a moment later. It may have been some time since we last fought, but do you really think you have what it takes to kill me now, you dumb pigeon? Dragon Goddess Yeyou sneered coldly. Dumb pigeon? The primordial phoenix immediately glared at Dragon Goddess Yeyou with enough killing intent to actually kill someone. However, the primordial phoenix's eyes suddenly widened with shock. Either my eyes are deceiving me right now, or you are that annoying snake, in human form? The primordial phoenix sounded like she was in disbelief, yet there was a hint of entertainment within her tone, almost as though she was subtly mocking Dragon Goddess Yeyou. Dragon Goddess Yeyou sucked her teeth and growled in a cold voice, "Hearing your voice makes me want to pluck your feathers." "You dare?" Primordial Phoenix screamed, causing bursts of flames to erupt from its body like it was an active volcano. "Why wouldn't I dare? It won't be my first time, after all." A cold smile appeared on Dragon Goddess Yeyou's face. The primordial phoenix trembled in anger after hearing such words. "It has been 1,000,000 years since we last fought. While you've slept for probably 90% of that time, I've spent countless resources and effort into strengthening myself so that I would be able to scale you like a fish if I ever encountered you again. Looks like today will be that day. How dare you compare me to a fish?" Dragon Goddess Yeyou's eyes began glowing with killing intent, and dragon scales began appearing on her body. Ahem. Tian-Yi suddenly cleared his throat loudly and spoke, "Dragon Goddess, please don't forget why we are here." He then moved to stand between the two and continued speaking, "Primordial Phoenix, please calm down. We are not here to fight you." "Huh? And who the hell are you?" The Primordial Phoenix just noticed Tian-Yi's presence, as his presence was incomparably smaller than Dragon Goddess Yeyou's presence. "My name is Tian-Yi, and I am but a humble human with the desire to have a word with you." The Primordial Phoenix started glancing back and forth between Tian-Yi and Dragon Goddess Yeyou. Now this is something else. A divine beast, the Dragon Goddess, no less, traveling the starry sky with a human being. This is a sight that I never thought I'd ever witness. The Primordial Phoenix muttered in an intrigued voice before fixing her gaze on Dragon Goddess Yeyou. "When did you become so close with a human, Dragon Goddess, who has never given them any attention since the beginning of time? Don't tell me. Are you mating with this human as well? You will pay for disrespecting me, Primordial Phoenix." Dragon Goddess Yeyou returned to her original form the following moment, her eyes spewing heavenly fire and the intent to fight. Tian-Yi rubbed his eyes and released a stressed sigh. "Dragon Princess, if you calm down, I will spar with you after this is over," Tian-Yi said to her. Dragon Goddess Yeyou's tail visibly twitched after hearing such words. Although it has been less than 100 years since they last fought, she has already begun to crave another fight with Tian-Yi. After spending a few moments controlling her emotions, Dragon Goddess Yeyou returned to her human form and proceeded to close her eyes, meditating in silence. When the Primordial Phoenix saw how Dragon Goddess Yeyou listened to a human's commands, she was shaken to her core with shock. "Who are you? How did you make her listen to you?" Besides being known for being a bully, that dragon is also famous for not listening to anyone. "And what are your relationships?" The Primordial Phoenix looked at Tian-Yi in a new light. "I already told you my identity. As for our relationship, it's complicated, but I guess we're something like traveling partners." The Primordial Phoenix sucked in a long and deep breath after hearing such a thing. "And you convinced her to be your traveling partner? How?" The Primordial Phoenix clearly couldn't believe it. "Well, we had a conversation and a little spar. It took 200 years, and I nearly died, but it worked out somehow." The Primordial Phoenix was speechless. Once she snapped out of it, she asked, "So, what do you want from me?" Tian-Yi smiled, and he proceeded to tell the Primordial Phoenix of his ambitions. "A world where beasts and humans can interact with each other without fear, compared to Dragon Goddess Yeyou, the Primordial Phoenix has more experience with humans, even dealing in business with some of them, so she understood Tian-Yi's ambitions with more clarity. With that being said, as a divine beast, she naturally saw humans as inferior entities, even if they do benefit her pockets. "While I understand your ambitions, and it would benefit my business more if I had more human customers, I cannot see how you will achieve such a thing. Like fire and water, dragons and phoenixes, humans and beasts have fought with each other since the beginning of time. It will take a lot more than just convincing a few strong beasts to change the world. I am aware of that. While that is my ultimate goal, my current goal is simply to create a foundation. It may take several eras before things start to change, but nothing will change if there is no foundation. The primordial phoenix didn't say anything and turned to look at dragon goddess Yeyou. Since you are following him, they'll take it that you believe he'll be able to achieve such a task. Dragon goddess Yeyou opened her eyes and responded calmly, "No, I don't believe he'll be able to do it." The primordial phoenix looked puzzled by her response, and she asked, "Then why are you following him?" "Because it's interesting enough to lessen my boredom." Unbelievable. The primordial phoenix was left speechless by her response. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. C1224 Madame Feng. Chapter 1224 Madame Feng. 1224 Madame Feng. After snapping out of her daze, primordial phoenix returned to focusing on Tian, and she spoke, "I understand what you are trying to do, but I don't see how it has anything to do with me. What do you want from me?" "I'd like you to witness my journey with the dragon goddess and others who might join us in the future," Tian said. "In other words, you want me to become your follower? With this annoying snake by my side the entire time? I refuse. Over my dead body." Primordial Phoenix immediately refused his offer, which didn't surprise him in the slightest. But he didn't give up and continued to convince her, "I am not asking you to become my follower. You are free to watch me from a distance or by my side, just like the dragon goddess here. Don't you want to be part of something much bigger than yourself? It could be the start of a new era, one that you had a hand in creating. It'll also benefit your business greatly." I have much better things to do than babysit a human with an impossible ambition. Unlike the dragon goddess, I have a life that's worth something. Primordial Phoenix sneered. A vein appeared on dragon goddess Yu's forehead after hearing the primordial phoenix's insult, but she barely managed to control her emotions. Tian became silent for a moment. Perhaps I am approaching her the wrong way. She has a business of her own, and merchants rarely do things that do not benefit them. If you have nothing else to say, I'm out of here," Primordial Phoenix said as she began turning around. "Primordial Phoenix, I have an offer for you," Tian suddenly said. The Primordial Phoenix halted her movements, but she did not turn back around, only twisting her head slightly. Tian proceeded to retrieve an object for his storage ring and held it in front of him. "What's this profound aura?" The Primordial Phoenix couldn't help but turn around after sensing a weird aura coming from Tian's palms. Her eyes narrowed on the glowing red stone resting on Tian's palms. The rock was shaped like an egg and was only as big as an adult's fist. Despite its unremarkable size, it contained an immense amount of yang qi within. There was so much yang qi condensed within the rock that it looked like there was a sun resting inside the rock, and it was emitting a scorching heat wave that could easily incinerate even an immortal if they got too close without serious preparation. The Primordial Phoenix's eyes widened with shock and disbelief when she finally realized what she was looking at. Is that what I think it is?" she stuttered after swallowing nervously. Although she didn't know the glowing egg-like object Tian was holding, the dragon goddess' interest was instantly piqued when she saw the Primordial Phoenix's reaction. There were very few treasures in this world that would interest the Primordial Phoenix, much less cause her to salivate. Tian smiled and said, "I don't know what you think this is, but this is a smoldered phoenix egg that has bathed in intense yang qi for over 1 billion years, ever since the beginning of the primordial era. As a phoenix, I'm sure you know the value of these things. A 1,000,000-year-old smoldered phoenix egg would send an entire nation into a frenzy, and a 10-million-year-old smoldered phoenix egg started a war within the divine heavens not long ago. Over 1 billion years." The primordial phoenix had a frightened expression on her face. "Phoenix egg? Does that mean there's a phoenix growing inside?" Dragon goddess Yeyou asked out of curiosity. Tian shook his head, although that is what the name suggests, there is no phoenix growing inside. In fact, it has nothing to do with phoenixes. A smoldered phoenix egg is an extremely rare and potent resource for cultivators with a cultivation method that requires yang qi, and phoenixes are inherently made of yang qi, so this would benefit them even more. So it's just a cultivation resource. Humph. I was expecting something more exciting since she reacted so intensely. How boring. Dragon Goddess Yeyou shrugged, quickly losing interest. Just a cultivation resource? How dare you utter such nonsense, you uncultured snake? A smoldered phoenix egg to phoenixes is as important as your blood essence is to a dragon with a common bloodline. At my cultivation, only something like a smoldered phoenix egg could benefit me. And it's not just a small amount. Hell, I might even be able to improve my bloodline with it. Dragon Goddess Yeyou frowned upon hearing her last words. Your bloodline is already the purest it can be. How could it possibly get any purer? That's just how potent a smoldered phoenix egg is, and this is the first time I have seen one that has aged over 1 billion years. I consumed one that was 250 million years ago about 100 million years ago, and it increased my strength by leaps and bounds. I can only imagine what will happen if I consume one that is 4 times older. The primordial phoenix was essentially drooling at this point. Primordial phoenix, here is my offer. I want you to follow me for 100,000 years. If I am unable to achieve my ambitions within that amount of time, I will give you this smoldered phoenix egg as compensation. What do you say? Tian said as he held the egg out in a tempting manner. Follow you for 100,000 years. Is that all I have to do? The primordial phoenix was in disbelief, not because it was an immensely difficult task but because it was immensely easy. In the gaze of her eternal eyes, the span of 100,000 years would pass as but a fleeting breath, scarcely distinguishable from a mere moment in the fleeting perception of mortal beings. Hell, Dragon Goddess Yu's naps lasted longer than that. Indeed, you only need to follow me. I won't force you to do anything you don't want to, and you are free to leave whenever you wish. You have a deal. The primordial phoenix immediately responded without a hint of hesitation in her tone. Seriously. Dragon Goddess Yeyou was left speechless by her quick change in attitude. The following moment, the primordial phoenix's fiery body began shrinking until it was shaped like a human. With flaming red hair and a pair of golden eyes, the primordial phoenix transformed into a peerless beauty that rivaled Dragon Goddess Yeyou but with a unique aura and charm of her own. My human name is Feng, but you may call me Madame Feng. C1225 Eater of Stars. Chapter 1225 Eater of Stars 1225 Eater of Stars, you basically got bought out by him. Dragon Goddess Yeyou said to Feng shortly afterward. So what? I will gladly sell myself out for a billion-year-old smoldered phoenix egg. You may not understand its importance to me right now, but you will in 100,000 years when I become so strong that even you cannot touch me. Feng sneered. Oh. So you think you'll be stronger than me after eating that egg? I cannot wait to see your defeated face in 100,000 years. Who said I'm not stronger than you now? The egg will only make the difference that much larger and more obvious. Why don't we put that nonsense to the test right now, then? Dragon Goddess Yu's eyes flared up with killing intent. It'd be my pleasure. Feng's body began releasing flames. Dragon Goddess, this isn't how you should welcome a new companion. I promised you that I'd spar with you after this, so you can release your anger on me. Tian quickly interrupted them, as he did not want to lose one of his traveling companions so soon after getting another one. Humph, forget it, I don't feel like it anymore. If you want to travel with this dumb pigeon, you can do so alone. And without saying anything else, Dragon Goddess Yeyou flew away, disappearing into the starry sky. Feng looked at Tian and asked him, why didn't you try to stop her? He smiled and said, because she had every right to leave whenever she pleased, as do you. But I have a feeling that she won't be gone for long and will eventually return to our side once she calms down. You're a weird human, unlike any other human that I've come across before. Feng said. I will take that as a compliment. Well, what do you plan on doing now? I'm going to find the divine serpent known as Eater of Stars and have a chat with them. Tian said. Eater of Stars? Are you insane? What do you hope to achieve from contacting that monster? Feng Yumming had a look of disbelief on her face after hearing such an ominous name. You are familiar with the Eater of Stars? Tian looked at her glistening eyes. Of course. She is a notorious entity that does nothing good for the world, an unreasonable monster with an insatiable appetite that constantly consumes stars as though it is always on the verge from dying of hunger. I wouldn't get close to the Eater of Stars if I were you, as you would most likely get eaten by her before you could even say anything. In fact, I don't even know if she has the ability to communicate like I do. The Eater of Stars is female, as well? Have you ever spoken with her? Tian asked, his gaze filled with interest, almost as if he was a child before an amusement park. No, I have never spoken with her before, nor do I have the desire to do so. I have seen her consume stars from a distance a few times, but that's about it. If you've never spoken to her, then how do you know that she's consuming stars without reason? Because she's been doing it since the Primordial era, and nothing has ever come out of it. Fascinating. How fascinating. I must speak with the Eater of Stars, and if I am lucky, I might even find out why she is doing what she's been doing for eons. Feng Yumming was speechless. The more she gave him reasons to not approach the Eater of Stars, the more he seemed to be interested. He might actually have a screw loose in his head. She thought to herself. Whatever. If he dies, I will just get my hands on the smoldered phoenix egg sooner. Do you know how we can find the Eater of Stars? Tian then asked. No, but it shouldn't be too hard to follow her trail, especially considering that she always leaves behind a trail of destruction. All right. Then let's get going. Thus, Tian and Feng Yumming began their journey in search of the Eater of Stars. Just like how he found Feng Yumming, Tian would speak to everyone that crossed his path in the starry sky. And in the blink of an eye, 1,000 years passed. So that's the Eater of Stars, huh? She's definitely not an ordinary divine beast. Tian mumbled in a dazed voice as he watched a massive white, snake-like figure in the distance swallowing stars with a single bite, his gaze filled with fascination. The way it consumes the stars without hesitation makes me shudder no matter how many times I see it. Feng Yumming sighed. Tian became silent. What's wrong? Are you having second thoughts? Feng Yumming asked him with a teasing smile. He shook his head and sighed. I don't know how to say this, but she appears to be in profound anguish. Anguish? The Eater of Stars? Feng Yumming chuckled at such words. I doubt she even has any emotions, much less anguish. Even if she does have emotions, what could she possibly be anguished about? The stars that she consumes endlessly? The mess she has made in the starry sky? We may never know if we don't try to understand her. Good luck with that. Feng Yumming shrugged. I will. You can stay here while I try to speak with her. And without hesitation, Tian began flying towards the monstrous being in the distance. You. Feng Yumming held herself back from trying to convince him to stop, as she had failed for the past 1,000 years. Nothing I say will change his mind now. She sighed inwardly. She then turned to look in a certain direction and smirked. When are you going to stop watching us from the shadows like a stalker? A moment later, Dragon Goddess Yu's figure appeared before Feng Yumming. How long have you known? Dragon Goddess Yeyou asked with a deep frown. Whenever you first realized that we were searching for the Eater of Stars, I guess. Even though it was just for a brief moment and you quickly hid your presence again, it was so obvious that I almost died from secondhand embarrassment. Dragon Goddess Yu's face flushed with redness after hearing such words. To think you'd be worried enough to let your guard down. Is the human that important to you? You wouldn't understand it even if I told you. Dragon Goddess Yeyou sneered. Then are you going to stop him? He's essentially walking straight into his own graveyard right now. After a moment of silence, Dragon Goddess Yeyou spoke. You've been with him for 1,000 years now, yet you don't seem to know anything about him. You are just as dumb as I thought. What the hell is that supposed to mean? The Eater of Stars may have immense prowess, but it only knows how to eat. He won't be threatened by something like that. You sure have a lot of confidence in him. You would too if you ever fought him. Feng Yiming turned silent after that, as she was mainly focused on Tian, who was just a moment away from reaching the Eater of Stars. C1246 A Waste of Talents. Chapter 1226 A Waste of Talents. 1226 A Waste of Talents. As Tian approached the Eater of Stars, he could feel its immense and uncontrolled pressure trying to keep him away. The pressure was tyrannical, strong enough to crush immortals and shatter stars. However, even that was not enough to keep Tian away. Covered in a sharp aura that seemed to slice apart even the void itself, Tian continued to slowly close their distance. It doesn't make any noises even as it consumes the stars, almost as if there is a black hole inside its mouth that silently swallows everything. How interesting. A smile appeared on Tian's face, and it grew wider as he inspected the Eater of Stars with great interest. The Eater of Stars was as long and massive as dragon goddess Yeyou in her dragon form, and it was covered in smooth white scales from head to tail, making her appearance very distinctive within the void. Her white scales shone profoundly, like pearls under light, and even the void that naturally consumes light cannot seem to drown out its brilliance. Her head was round and cute, resembling that of a snake, and on it were two large void-like eyes that did not have the slightest glow within, almost like the eyes of the dead, yet she was very much alive. Slight above her eyes and at the center of her smooth forehead was a distinctive red symbol, its significance yet to be known. When Tian looked into her dead eyes, he could only see anguish and frustration. It was so clear to him that it was as though the Eater of Stars was personally speaking to him. Once he was close enough to the Eater of Stars, Tian took a deep breath before speaking in a loud voice, "Eater of Stars. Can I have a moment of your time?" Spiritual energy carried his voice throughout the starry sky, allowing it to spread within the void and reach the Eater of Stars. However, the Eater of Stars did not have the slightest reaction, almost as though it couldn't hear him. Tian took another deep breath and called for her again, "Eater of Stars. I can tell that you're in pain. Is there anything that I can do to help?" The Eater of Stars suddenly trembled, and she began to come to a slow halt for the first time in countless years. It turned to look at him and spoke through divine sense, "Pain. Don't speak as though you know anything, human." The Eater of Stars opened her mouth and began moving toward Tian with the intention of consuming him. "You're right. I don't know anything. However, I want to know. I want to understand you. Can you tell me what is bothering you?" Tian calmly stood there as the Eater of Stars moved closer at a rapid rate. "Even if you knew, there's nothing you or anyone in this universe could do about it. Now, disappear." As the Eater of Stars tried to swallow him, a profound light flickered within Tian's gaze, and his body emitted a divine aura. When the Eater of Stars sensed his divine aura, she instinctively turned away from Tian, avoiding him. "You're annoying. Die already." Although the Eater of Stars decided to not consume him, she still wanted to kill him for disturbing her. As she opened her mouth again, Tian could see a white glow deep inside her mouth that grew at a rapid rate. Before he knew it, he was engulfed by white flames that quickly tore away his spiritual energy. "This flame, it's not burning my spiritual energy, but consuming it and using it to grow stronger?" Tian was astonished by the white flame's unique properties. "Scatter." With a flick of his sleeves, all of the white flames around him blew away, but they continued to burn in the void. "I'm guessing you're the type that only listens after a fight, almost like someone else that I know." Despite being attacked twice already, Tian was not angry in the slightest. "It's been a while since I stretched my limbs, too. Let's enjoy this for a while, shall we?" Thus, Tian and the Eater of Stars began their battle. The Eater of Stars would throw all sorts of flame techniques at Tian, quickly filling the void with her seemingly eternal flames that refused to die out even many years later, hovering in the void like orbs of light. From a distance, her white flames may even appear as stars. Che. Dragon goddess Yeyou suddenly sucked her teeth when she saw Tian fighting the Eater of Stars, seemingly bothered by something. Feng Yumming noticed this and asked her, "What's wrong?" "He's grown so much stronger since our last fight, yet he's barely cultivated in the past 1,000 years. How is that possible? Where does his power come from?" Feng Yumming raised an eyebrow and said, "While it's true that he's barely cultivated during our search for the Eater of Stars, I cannot say anything about his growth since I never fought him before." Dragon goddess Yeyou suddenly shivered from excitement, and a wide smile appeared on her face unknowingly. If he's this strong after 1,000 years without cultivation, can you imagine what he could achieve if he focused on cultivation for 1,000 years? Dragon goddess Yeyou mumbled in a dazed voice. "If he's truly as talented as you are saying, he's definitely wasting his talents chasing after divine beasts," Feng Yumming said. "Indeed, what a waste of talents," Feng Yumming then said. "Also, I don't know if you noticed this, but he seems to have a fascination with beasts, perhaps even an obsession." "I noticed. He's always trying to learn more about dragons during our travels. I think he's just genuinely curious about beasts in general. There are probably countless humans who are constantly wondering about us, but they don't have the courage or strength to approach us, unlike this weirdo," Dragon goddess Yeyou said with a slight smile on her face. "You really do like him, don't you?" Feng Yumming chuckled with a smirk. "Shut your beak, dumb pigeon." Dragon goddess Yeyou glared at her. "You should keep your eyes on him. It'd be a pity if he dies to the Eater of Stars, after all," Feng Yumming sneered. C1227 Insatiable Hunger. Chapter 1227 Insatiable Hunger. 1227 Insatiable Hunger. Why? Why won't you die? The Eater of Stars grew increasingly frustrated when she could not seem to kill Tian despite putting in serious effort. "You seem to be in a hurry to kill me. Why? Aren't you having fun? Let's keep this up for another 100 years at the very least, Eater of Stars." Tian laughed out loud. 100 years? I don't have that kind of time to play with you. Eater of Stars roared in a furious voice. "No time? That's one of the silliest things an immortal entity such as yourself could say, since time is all we have. You have no idea. Then why don't you educate me? Who knows? Maybe I might even lower my guard, as I am easily distracted." The Eater of Stars frowned at his obvious provocation, but she didn't seem to have any other choice, as it might really take her 100 years if not more to deal with him if they continued at this rate. Several years have gone by since the beginning of their conflict, and the Eater of Stars could feel its relentless hunger intensifying within, slowly driving her toward a state of madness. If she doesn't deal with Tian quickly and continues to consume stars, she will be tormented by her insatiable hunger. Eventually, the Eater of Stars began speaking in a reluctant tone. "Can you imagine the relentless ache of perpetual hunger, an insatiable yearning that refuses to subdue no matter the quantity consumed? Throughout the expanse of my existence since the Primordial era, I have remained a stranger to the sensation of a contented stomach. Countless stars have succumbed to my insatiable appetite, yet I can only keep my hunger barely satisfied enough to where it won't drive me completely mad. I have traveled the starry sky for millions of years in search of something that could satisfy my hunger, but to no avail. I have dried out rivers of celestial water, consumed all sorts of treasures. There is almost nothing in this world that I haven't consumed, yet my hunger remains unsatisfied. I want to stop and rest, but I fear that my hunger will get out of control if I sleep, if I can even sleep properly with this constant hunger. That's right. I have never even had a proper sleep. The only thing I can do is continue moving and consuming everything in my path." Tian was left speechless by the Eater of Stars situation. Even Feng Yumming and the Dragon Goddess were baffled by it. They always thought that the Eater of Stars was acting out of instinct and had no reason for its actions, that it was a natural calamity without emotions or thoughts. Neither of them could have anticipated this sort of truth, and they couldn't help but pity the Eater of Stars. "I understand now. So that is the source of your anguish. What a terrible way of life. And to think that you've been living like this since the primordial era. Tian-Yi was not prepared to learn such a truth and did not know how to respond or react. While Tian-Yi was deep in his thoughts, the Eater of Stars saw this as a chance to put an end to their farce and attacked without any warning. Wake up, you idiot. Dragon Goddess Yu's voice suddenly rippled in the starry sky, snapping Tian-Yi out of his daze. But it was too late, and the Eater of Stars landed a direct hit on Tian-Yi the following moment, sending him flying. Blood gushed from Tian-Yi's body, leaving behind a long trail of blood that hovered in the starry sky. You idiot. Are you still alive? Dragon Goddess Yeyou immediately rushed to his side to assess his condition. A slight smile appeared on Tian-Yi's face as he muttered in a weak voice, "Don't worry, I won't die before I beat you." How dare you say such a thing when you cannot even defeat some stupid snake? Do you have no shame? Dragon Goddess Yeyou sighed. Meanwhile, the Eater of Stars proceeded to fly towards them with her mouth wide open, seemingly trying to consume them together. How dare a mere snake even think about consuming a dragon? Courting death. Dragon Goddess Yeyou narrowed her eyes at the Eater of Stars as scales began appearing on her body. Please wait, Dragon Goddess. Tian-Yi quickly grabbed her arm. I am not out of the fight just yet. After adjusting his posture, Tian-Yi confronted the incoming Eater of Stars with a wide smile on his face. Unbeknownst to him, his body suddenly started emitting a golden aura that gave off an unfathomable feeling. When Dragon Goddess Yeyou detected the palpable presence of his aura, an inexplicable thrill coursed through her entire being, setting her body astir with an intense longing for combat, and igniting her blood with an irresistible urge to engage. The Eater of Stars, too, discerned the subtle shift in his aura, further intensifying her agitation. Her primal instincts screamed that unless she swiftly vanquished him, the window of opportunity to secure victory would close inexorably. As the Eater of Stars closed in with her mouth wide open, the trail of blood left behind by Tian-Yi entered her mouth. While the amount of blood left behind by Tian-Yi was akin to a single grain of sand to the Eater of Stars, it was a substantial amount of blood to lose for a human. When the Eater of Stars tasted Tian-Yi's blood, its massive body shivered for a brief second before freezing like an ice statue. Her void-like eyes began to change as the light slowly returned to them. Why did you stop, Eater of Stars? I am just getting started. Tian-Yi spread his arms and beckoned her in a provoking manner. However, the Eater of Stars completely ignored him as she remained hovering there with a look of disbelief on her face. Eventually, she spoke in a low voice, You. What are you? Huh? Tian-Yi did not understand her question and could only look at her with a raised eyebrow. Although he didn't understand her question, he could tell that something had changed for the Eater of Stars, and when he looked into her eyes, he could see a hint of hope within. C1228 An Unprecedented Occurrence. Chapter 1228 An Unprecedented Occurrence 1228 An Unprecedented Occurrence. What am I, you ask? Human, I suppose. Tian-Yi eventually responded to the Eater of Stars' question even though he had a feeling that it wasn't what she wanted to hear. Why do you ask? He then asked. After a moment of silence, the Eater of Stars responded, Amongst the countless things I've consumed throughout the years, very few things interest my taste buds. However, your blood. When I consumed your blood, it excited my taste buds in a way that I've never experienced before, and even though the amount of blood I've consumed is insignificant, even neglectable, it's managed to satisfy my hunger significantly. I could consume 100 stars, yet it would not satisfy my hunger the way your blood just did. The Eater of Stars proceeded to consume the remaining blood that was scattered in the starry sky, leaving not even a single drop of blood behind, and her body would tremble with excitement with every drop of blood. Once she finished cleaning the starry sky of Tian-Yi's blood, she released a deafening roar that shook the starry sky. My blood satisfies your insatiable hunger. Why? Tian-Yi mumbled out loud after learning of this information. I don't know, it just does. The Eater of Stars replied. Silence filled the place for the next several moments until Tian-Yi had an idea. Eater of Stars, I have an offer for you. I am listening. For the first time in history, the Eater of Stars was being patient and willing to listen to a human being. You see, I have an ambition. Tian proceeded to tell the Eater of Stars his ambitions. If I have someone like you around me in my journey, it will definitely help speed up my goals. In exchange for your company, I am willing to offer you my blood to feed your hunger. Of course, I won't make you do anything that you don't want to, and you can leave at any time. The Eater of Stars closed her eyes to ponder in silence. A few moments later, her massive body began to shrink, progressively shrinking faster with every passing second, until she was the size of an ordinary snake. I shall follow you until the end of time, Master. The Eater of Stars said. Master? Tian raised an eyebrow and said, I'm not asking you to be my servant, you know. I am aware. This is my choice. You really don't mind? I don't. In the realm of beasts, yielding to a human as their master equated to a profound surrender, a relinquishing of their very essence, a choice that would forever brand them with ridicule among their fellow creatures. However, the Eater of Stars was no mere ordinary beast. She was a divine beast with significance equal to that of dragon goddess Yeyou and the primordial phoenix. Despite that, she still decided to accept Tian as a master. In the eyes of the Eater of Stars, such considerations held no sway over her. To her, the paramount imperative was the satisfaction of her insatiable hunger, rendering all other concerns inconsequential. In this singular moment, an extraordinary occurrence had transpired. A divine beast, for the first time in history, had chosen to acknowledge a human as its master. Furthermore, this wasn't just any divine beast, it was the Eater of Stars, a notorious entity that had sown terror across the expanse of the divine heavens, a veritable force of nature responsible for the annihilation of countless stars. So, do you have another name besides Eater of Stars? I do not. You may give me a name if you wish. I'll need some time to think about it. Anyways, here. Tian suddenly slashed his palm with his sword and offered it to her. Eater of Stars immediately rushed at it like a starving beast and immediately began consuming it. While changing her size won't change her appetite, she could perceive her hunger gradually assuaging as she imbibed his blood. Several minutes later, in a moment unprecedented in her existence, the Eater of Stars encountered the sensation of satiety, discovering what it meant to be free from the ceaseless grip of hunger. It was also at this moment that she knew that she had made the right choice by following Tian. Eater of Stars wanted this moment to last forever, to be able to feast on Tian's blood endlessly, but she knew that wouldn't be possible if she wanted to preserve his blood for longer. Thank you, Master. Eater of Stars muttered after releasing a satisfied sigh, her stomach feeling better and fuller than ever. Is this your first time tasting human blood? Tian asked her. No. I have tasted human blood before, but they all tasted like dirt water. Tian sighed in relief after hearing this, as he feared for a moment that only human blood could satisfy her hunger. So, what does my blood taste like? He asked out of curiosity. I don't know how to describe it, but it's delicious, unlike anything I have tasted before, and it makes my taste buds tremble with delight. If I am only allowed to eat this for the rest of my life, I wouldn't mind it at all. Is that so? Anyways, let's go meet my other companions. Tian then said. Eater of Stars nodded. Suddenly, a powerful presence appeared behind Tian. When he turned around, he saw dragon goddess Yeyou with a somewhat weird look on her face, and she appeared to be panting a bit. Dragon goddess? Are you okay? Why do you seem a bit tired? Tian raised his eyebrows at her. I tried, but I cannot hold it in any longer. Tian, fight me, now. She said while her aura skyrocketed. Huh? Right now? Tian was baffled. Had just finished fighting with the Eater of Stars, and he even donated a good amount of his blood to her afterward. He was definitely in no condition to fight dragon goddess Yeyou. Why don't we do this another time, when I am healed? I'm sure you don't want to fight an injured person, as well. Bullshit. You'll be fine if you use that golden aura technique. Why didn't you use that technique when you fought me before? Are you mocking me? Dragon Goddess Yeyou roared in a frustrated manner. Golden aura technique? What are you talking about? Tian-yi responded with a dumbfounded expression. C1229 A Plan to Change the World. Chapter 1229 A Plan to Change the World. 1229 A Plan to Change the World. Are you genuinely feigning ignorance with me? I witnessed you harnessing it mere moments ago. Your body was enveloped in a resplendent golden aura. It emanated an incomprehensible and overwhelming pressure that I had never experienced before. Just recalling it makes my blood boil. Dragon Goddess Yeyou spoke with an angry expression on her face, thinking that he was messing with her. However, Tian-yi's puzzled expression remained on his face as he spoke. I genuinely have no idea what you're talking about. Golden aura? I don't even have a technique like that. Then what was that golden aura? How did you do it? Tian-yi shook his head. Are you sure you saw it? Dragon Goddess Yeyou began doubting whether she actually saw it. She turned to look at Feng, who was quickly approaching them, and asked her, Hey. You also saw that golden aura around him right after he was nearly beaten to death, right? Feng did not immediately respond, and when she did, she responded with a smirk on her face. I didn't see anything. You must have hallucinated or something. Dragon Goddess Yeyou clenched her fists and gritted her teeth, her eyes radiating with killing intent. Feng sucked her teeth and quickly added, just joking. She turned to look at Tian-yi and continued, she's not lying. There was a golden aura around you just now. I've never felt anything so oppressive before. Tian-yi fell silent after hearing this, but he had zero idea what caused the golden aura to show up. Now that I think about it, I felt oddly energized for a brief moment, like I was invincible. Unfortunately, I don't know what caused it, nor can I replicate it. Dragon Goddess Yeyou began to ponder deeply. A moment later, she spoke with a serious expression on her face. It appeared shortly after you were nearly beaten to death, so if you experience another near-death situation, it might show up again. It'll help you. Whoa. Hold it. Tian-yi immediately distanced himself when Dragon Goddess Yeyou started stretching her limbs. I barely have enough energy to stay awake and you want to beat me? I will really die. Aren't you always so confident in yourself? You'll be fine. Dragon Goddess Yeyou seemed to have no desire to back down and slowly approached Tian-yi. Seeing this, the Eater of Stars moved to stand in front of Tian-yi. I won't let you hurt him. Eater of Stars glared at Dragon Goddess Yeyou sternly. You think you have what it takes to stop me? While you may have more raw strength than me, you don't know how to properly use it. You don't even know how to fight properly, and I doubt you know any real techniques. Randomly breathing fire doesn't count either. Dragon Goddess Yeyou sneered. Calm down, both of you. Dragon Goddess, I just want to rest for now. After that, we can figure out the whole golden aura business together, and then I will spar with you. Okay? Fine. She reluctantly agreed. Good, then allow me to introduce you to our new member, Eater of Stars. Tian-yi said. Eater of Stars, these two are my traveling companions. The spirited one is Dragon Goddess Yeyou, and the other is Primordial Phoenix, also known as Feng. And this is Eater of Stars. I am still trying to think of a name for her, so you guys can call her that for now. Can you turn into a human? Feng suddenly asked. I cannot, or more precisely, I don't know how to. Eater of Stars shook her head. Don't worry, I'm sure they will teach you. Tian-yi said. After their short introduction, Tian-yi brought everyone to the closest uninhabited star to recover his injuries. So, who do you plan on visiting next? Feng asked him. Honestly, I don't know. And while it will benefit to have more companions, I think we can start changing the world with just the four of us for now. Tian-yi said. And how do you plan on changing the world? We can start by letting the world know of our presence. A human traveling the world and doing things with 3 divine beasts by his side, it will surely stir both the human world and the beast world. Seriously? That's the best plan you can come up with after 1,000 years? Dragon Goddess Yeyou was speechless. Then do you have any suggestions? Dragon Goddess Yeyou was speechless, as she had no idea where to even begin. As simple as it may seem, I think your plan will work pretty well. Feng Yuming suddenly spoke up. Your goal is to create a world where humans and beasts can work together, right? We can commence by demonstrating to the world the very feasibility of such a vision, since most believe it to be impossible. By showcasing our partnership, we can enlighten humanity and beasts to the possibility of collaboration between our 2 worlds. Then it's decided. Tian-Yi had an eager smile on his face. We can start by dealing with issues that normal people or beasts cannot handle by themselves. Do you guys know of anything like that happening within the divine heavens at this moment? Well, I've spent the past 1,000 years traveling the starry sky with you, so my knowledge is to the extent of yours. Feng Yuming shrugged. I don't know, either. Dragon Goddess Yeyou said in a stiff voice, as she didn't want to admit that she had been following them for the same amount of time. That's fine. We can look into it once we return to the divine heavens. Tian-Yi said. Before that, I have something to say. Dragon Goddess Yeyou suddenly said. What is it? Shouldn't you spend some time improving your cultivation first? While you are already pretty strong, you could be much, much stronger if you focused on cultivation for some time. After all, you are still in the prime age for that. It would be a waste of your talents if you start too late. Is that really necessary? Sounds like a hassle, and I'd rather spend that time to work on my goals. Tian-Yi sighed. Of course. Beasts are naturally attracted to the strong, so the stronger you are, the more likely they will listen to you. If you want a world where beasts respect humans, you need to show them something worthy of respect, because as of now, the majority of beasts do not respect humans in the slightest. Makes sense. Alright, I'll dedicate some time to cultivation every once in a while. Tian-Yi nonchalantly nodded. I've long been aware of his immense talent, evident when he faced me and survived at an age not even surpassing 1,000 years. Now, I entertain the notion that he might have scarcely trained before then. Is it conceivable that he is truly a mere human? Dragon Goddess Yeyou sighed inwardly. I've been wondering, how old are you? Feng Yuming suddenly asked Tian-Yi. A little over 2,000 years old. Tian-Yi calmly responded. 2,000 years old? Impossible. Feng Yuming did not dare to believe him. It's true. He wasn't even 1,000 years old when he fought with me. Dragon Goddess Yeyou confirmed. Unbelievable. Feng Yuming muttered in disbelief. C1230 Golden Aura. Chapter 1230 Golden Aura. 1230 Golden Aura. Several days later, after Tian-Yi recovered from his injuries, he began looking into the Golden Aura with the others. The first thing they did was beat Tian-Yi until he was near death, since that was what triggered it in the first place. Go easy on me. Tian-Yi said with a stiff smile. Sure. Dragon Goddess Yeyou said in a nonchalant manner. Clearly, she did not plan on going easy on him. But before they could even begin, Tian-Yi had to convince Eater of Stars, whom he named Xingrui, to not attack Dragon Goddess Yeyou when she beats him, as she was overly protective of him. After all, if he were to meet his demise, her insatiable hunger would undoubtedly resurface. The prospect of reverting to such a state, after tasting the satisfaction of a full stomach, filled her with a profound dread. It was a fate she was determined to evade at any expense. Eventually, their experiment began with Dragon Goddess Yeyou beating Tian-Yi until his entire body was soaked in blood. Meanwhile, Feng Yuming watched with great entertainment from a distance. As for Xingrui, she cleaned up the blood on the ground that was spewed by Tian-Yi. Do you feel any different? Dragon Goddess Yeyou asked Tian-Yi as he lay on the ground in a near-death state. Besides immense pain all over my body? Nope. he replied in a low voice. You probably aren't near death enough. I'll keep on going then. Why, thus, Dragon Goddess Yeyou proceeded to continue the beating until he was truly on the verge of death. How about now? Tian-Yi couldn't even respond to her in his current state. HAA. Dragon Goddess Yeyou sighed. Then she proceeded to feed some medicine to him. Within minutes, Tian-Yi fully healed from his near-death state. Alright, let's do it again. Dragon Goddess Yeyou said afterward, sounding oddly eager to beat him. I don't think physically torturing myself will do any good. According to you, the golden aura occurred during my fight with Xingrui. Perhaps I need an opponent and to be engaged in a real fight. Tian-Yi quickly stopped her. That sounds reasonable. And since your opponent at that time was Xingrui, you should fight with her again. However, Xingrui immediately refused. I will not partake in hurting master no matter what. How about I do it? Feng Yuming suddenly volunteered herself. You? Dragon Goddess Yeyou raised her eyebrows. She nodded and explained, I have been wondering about his prowess since I learned that he'd survived a fight with you 1,000 years ago. I want to see for myself his talents. Let's do it then. Tian-Yi agreed to spar with Feng Yuming. Sometime later, Tian-Yi and Feng Yuming went back into the starry sky and started fighting each other. Much like Xingrui, Feng Yuming harnessed the formidable power of flames. However, in stark contrast to Xingrui, Feng Yuming exhibited flawless mastery over her fiery abilities, even boasting a vast repertoire of hundreds of unique techniques at her disposal. For the first several months, Feng Yuming faced Tian-Yi while in her human form, as she didn't really take the fight seriously. However, she eventually transformed back into a phoenix and started fighting him for real, with the intention of killing him. Their battle raged with an intensity beyond measure, and the very expanse of the starry sky was ablaze with the searing brilliance of Feng Yuming's phoenix flames. Her flames surged with such blistering heat that they tore through Tian-Yi's spiritual energy, reduced his clothing to ashes, and roasted his skin with relentless ferocity. Although it wasn't enough to endanger his life, it did drain his stamina and strength constantly and quickly. That dumb pigeon has grown a lot stronger since our fight. Dragon Goddess Yeyou mumbled to herself as she watched them fight. Of course, she's still miles away from my level. Though Feng Yuming may be weaker than Dragon Goddess Yeyou when it comes to raw prowess, her undying and relentless flames were incredibly annoying and difficult to deal with, especially for a tiny human like Tian-Yi. After enduring what felt like an eternity in the deepest abyss of torment and bearing the ceaseless scorching agony, Tian-Yi found himself approaching his limits. As he slowly approached his death, Tian-Yi subconsciously started recalling everything he felt during his fight with Xingrui. In the very moment when he teetered on the brink of being consumed by the relentless phoenix flames, an explosive surge of energy surged forth from the innermost depths of his being, before a resplendent golden aura emerged around his body. The atmosphere underwent an instantaneous transformation the very second the golden aura materialized, and Dragon Goddess Yu's face lit up like a lamp with an expansive smile on it as she detected the immeasurable might it exuded. It's here. She did not hesitate to rush into the starry sky and towards Tian-Yi's location. Meanwhile, Tian-Yi faced Feng Yuming with his newfound strength. So this is the golden aura. He looked at his glowing hands with great interest. Not only was his depleted energy quickly being restored, he felt a divine power that did not exist moments before now in the grasp of his own hands. After taking a brief moment to admire his new strength, Tian-Yi turned to look at Feng Yuming, who uncontrollably trembled in fear when she felt his gaze on her. As Tian-Yi steadily advanced toward her, Feng Yuming fell into a trance, unleashing a barrage of techniques upon him with an intensity that suggested her very existence hinged upon their success. Her flames quickly engulfed Tian-Yi's figure. Despite that, Feng Yuming's anxiety only intensified, as she could tell that her flames were unable to touch Tian-Yi and were merely dancing around him, almost as though the flames had their own consciousness and were consciously avoiding Tian-Yi. The following moment, with a nonchalant sweep of his arm, every ember surrounding Tian-Yi dispersed like mere insects in his presence. Seeing this, Feng Yuming did not hesitate to return to her human form. I surrender. You win. Feng Yuming sighed out loud. Oh. When Feng Yuming surrendered her will to fight, so did Tian, and the golden aura around him quickly started diminishing. However, just as it was on the verge of disappearing, the golden aura suddenly surged to life once more. Simultaneously, Tian was turning around to confront the encroaching dragon goddess Yeyou, who was enveloped in her own aura that resonated with an unquenchable thirst for battle. C1231 Unfathomable Talents. Chapter 1231 Unfathomable Talents. 1231 Unfathomable Talents. I have been waiting for this moment for over 1,000 years, Tian. Dragon goddess Yeyou roared with a delighted smile on her face as she flew towards Tian like an unstoppable meteor. Tian confronted her with a smile on his face as well. Upon their collision, their intertwined spiritual energies and auras converged, birthing a cataclysmic detonation of such staggering magnitude that it would eclipse even the most potent nuclear forces known to Earth, rendering them insignificant in comparison. The force unleashed by their titanic clash was so overwhelming that had it erupted within the very heart of the divine heavens, it would have engulfed the entire realm, reducing it to mere cosmic dust in an instant. These two crazy fuckers. Are they trying to kill me, too? Feng Yuming nearly had a heart attack as she used her fastest movement technique to escape the blast and distance herself from them, barely escaping with the teeth of her skin. If she had been even slightly slower or reacted a second slower, she would have died there and then. This is what I've been yearning for. Finally, a worthy opponent whom I can unleash my full might. Dragon goddess Yu's demeanor seemed to have veered into madness, consumed entirely by the singular obsession of their confrontation. In fact, she was so absorbed in their fight that she was fighting with the intent to kill Tian. As for Tian, he too had succumbed to a peculiar trance, his thirst for combat pushed to its utmost limits. Due to the grand impact of their battle, they were immediately noticed by other experts, humans and beasts alike. Holy shit! Isn't that the same human who fought with the dragon goddess a little over 1,000 years ago? Has he returned for a rematch? Impossible. How did he get so strong in so little time? My cultivation barely advanced since then. Many of these individuals were present at their last battle, so they were greatly shocked to see Tian fighting dragon goddess Yeyou at her full strength when he was struggling to keep up with her before. Are you sure that's the same human from the Great Enlightenment? Surely, it must be a different person. No, it's definitely the same person. I have no doubt about it. I still remember their fight 1,000 years ago as clear as day. Then he must have consumed some heaven-defying treasures. I don't even know of any treasure that could possibly strengthen someone so fast without any side effects. He must have consumed a whole sea of celestial water or something. There's no way that amount of celestial water even exists. Could this be a second Great Enlightenment? We need to notify the others as soon as possible. The spectators hoped for their fight to last another 200 years, but alas, it ended much sooner than they all had hoped. After just one short year, dragon goddess Yeyou eventually defeated Tian for a second time. Although she wanted to prolong their fight like last time, she couldn't afford to go easy on him or she'd end up being the loser. Damn it. I thought I had this one in the bag. Tian muttered as he floated in the starry sky without his golden aura. Dragon goddess Yeyou remained unresponsive, her gaze fixed upon him in a profound silence, her countenance bearing a mysterious and contemplative expression. Eventually, she approached him and asked, "Are you okay?" "My body is screaming in pain, but I won't die," he said with a calm smile. "If you cultivated diligently for another 1,000 years, you might be able to defeat me." "I can't wait." He chuckled. Dragon goddess Yeyou then turned to look at the spectators and roared at them, "What are you looking at? If you're not going to fight me next, scram." All of the spectators immediately turned tails and fled as their lives depended on it, especially the beasts. "So, do you plan on giving a name to your ridiculous technique?" Dragon goddess Yeyou suddenly asked Tian. "I'll think about it once I have full control over it." "Very well. Then we'll schedule our next fight for when you can make it appear as you will." "All right." Over the next several years, Tian would focus on improving his cultivation, just as Dragon Goddess Yeyou suggested. During this time, besides cultivating, he would also feed Xingrui his blood once every year, which was more than enough to fill her stomach for another year. The rate of his growth is simply terrifying. Not even those with the purest bloodline in the Phoenix clan would be able to match him in terms of cultivation speed. In fact, they might as well be crawling on the floor while he runs. Feng Yuming sighed. She had always regarded herself as a superior being, believing herself peerless. Yet, in the presence of Tian and witnessing his unparalleled talents, she found herself humbled and awestruck by his exceptional prowess. Dragon Goddess Yeyou could only silently agree with Feng Yuming. As a divine being and having never lost a single fight before, she was beginning to anticipate losing for the first time to Tian. In the blink of an eye, another 100 years have passed. During this time, Xingrui learned how to transform into a human with the help of Feng Yuming. Her human form was incredibly beautiful and surprisingly innocent-looking, like a maiden who never left home. She had long, silky silver hair, black eyes, and snow-white skin. In stark contrast to Dragon Goddess Yeyou, whose presence exuded the divine aura of a goddess, and Feng Yuming, whose aura resonated with the grace of a fairy, Xingrui emitted the distinguished and refined aura of a noble young lady. As for Tian, had entered closed cultivation, and he made sure to collect enough blood to feed Xingrui before going into cultivation. When he emerged from his closed cultivation, he almost didn't recognize Xingrui. In fact, he only recognized her because she was feasting on a bottle of his blood when he saw her, which was the only reason that he even realized her identity. C1232 Unexpected Visitor. Chapter 1232 Unexpected Visitor. 1232 Unexpected Visitor. Are you done with your cultivation, master? Xingrui asked him the moment he came out of seclusion. Xingrui. Is that you? Tian stared at her with a dumbfounded expression, not daring to believe that the innocent-looking young lady before him was the one known as Eater of Stars despite the overwhelming evidence, such as the bottle of blood in her grasp that he had prepared for her right before he went into seclusion. It is, master. Xingrui calmly nodded for confirmation. Is that so? Tian proceeded to look around, expecting to see Dragon Goddess Yeyou or Feng Yuming around. He quickly found Dragon Goddess Yeyou, who appeared to be napping peacefully in the distance. Where is Feng Yuming? He asked Xingrui. Primordial Phoenix mentioned something about a business and said that she will return soon. That was 50 years ago. I see. Well, shall return whenever they are ready. How have you been faring, Xingrui? Do you need more blood? Xingrui shook her head. I still have 10 bottles left. They'll last me for another 10 years. Just let me know whenever you need it. Tian said with a smile. Now then. What should we do now? He began pondering their next step. Should he continue cultivating until Feng Yuming returns, or should he do something else while waiting for her to return? However, before he could think of something, a voice that he was not familiar with resounded. I have finally found you, my lord. Who's there? Show yourself. Xingrui immediately became defensive. Dragon Goddess Yeyou also woke up from her nap. The following moment, an old man emitting an ominous aura appeared out of thin air before Tian and Xingrui. There's no need to be alert. I am not your enemy. The old man said. Who are you? Tian asked him. Despite the pungent stench of blood emanating from the elderly man, Tian remained untroubled, as he sensed no imminent threat from the old man's presence. In fact, he could feel unwavering loyalty from the old man for some reason. This old subordinate is called Dong Yi, and I have spent the last 1,000,000 years awaiting your return. My return? What are you talking about? I don't believe we've met before, and I am not even 1,000,000 years old, so how could you be waiting so long for me? You must have gotten the wrong person. Tian expressed his doubts. I understand your confusion, and what I am about to tell you will sound crazy, but I am not messing with you. Dong Yi proceeded to tell Tian Yi of his true identity and his incarnation as the evil god and the divine paragon. Tian Yi listened to the whole story without interrupting, and on his face was a look of disbelief. If I am not mistaken, my lord, you have already been regaining your past memories. Tian Yi couldn't rebuke such a claim, as it was true. In fact, he's been seeing these memories even before he met with dragon goddess Yeyou. Even if what you say is true, what do you want me to do? What do you expect me to do? Those identities died with their body. Tian Yi asked him. Nothing at the moment, my lord. I am only here to fulfill my duties as your humble servant. If you ever need anything at all, please don't hesitate to use these old bones. Seriously. Seriously. Dong Yi nodded with a serious expression. Then I need some time to digest what I learned today. You may leave for now. Tian Yi sighed. As you command. Dong Yi bowed to Tian Yi before disappearing like a ghost. Do you believe what he said? Dragon goddess Yeyou asked him. I do. He calmly nodded. Truth be told, I was already aware of my past lives even before he told me. To think you were the evil god's reincarnation. The human world would go into a frenzy if they knew, and they might even hunt you down like some kind of beast. What are you going to do now? No matter what you decide, I will follow you. Xingrui said. Nothing has changed. Evil god or not, I will walk my own path until my dreams are realized. It's as simple as that. With that being said, let's return to the divine heavens and start our plans. Okay. Thus, Tian Yi made his way back to the divine heavens with Xingrui and dragon goddess Yeyou. Feng Yuming would eventually rejoin with them later. Knock knock, Yuan, are you awake? Yuan slowly opened his eyes after hearing Ximei's voice. He went to open the door and greet her. I am. Do you need anything? My mother's wondering if you are ready for your training yet. Ximei said. It's been several days since they dealt with the Azure Dragon clan and the Emerald Dragon family, but it felt much longer for Yuan, who had been engrossed in Dragon Goddess Yu's memories. Please let her know that I am ready, Yuan replied. Okay. Shortly after Ximei left his room, Feng Yuxiang and the others showed up in his room. When Yuan saw Feng Yuxiang and Lan Yingying standing beside each other, he couldn't help but recall Feng Yuming and Xingrui, and he wondered if they were somehow related. Young master? What's wrong? Feng Yuxiang asked him when she noticed his dazed stare. He smiled and said, I was just remembering something that happened in my past life. Do you know anything about the Primordial Phoenix? Primordial Phoenix? Of course. There is no way a phoenix wouldn't know of her. She's like a god in our race. No, she's practically a god. In fact, she's the sole reason why I became a businesswoman. Why do you ask? Wait. Do your incarnation know the Primordial Phoenix? Feng Yuxiang suddenly became excited. Yuan nodded, yes, I will tell you more about it later. After I finish my training. Please do. Feng Yuxiang was overflowing with enthusiasm. C1233 Immortal Monarch's Dominion. Chapter 1233 Immortal Monarch's Dominion. 1233 Immortal Monarch's Dominion. Ximei returned to Yuan's room a couple of minutes after she left. Yuan, my mother will be waiting for you in the courtyard, she notified him. All right. Thank you. He proceeded to make his way to the courtyard. Of course, having nothing better to do, Ximei and the others followed him. Once they arrived at the courtyard, they could see Ximingza casually standing on the sparring stage. Welcome, Yuan. I hope you had a good rest. Ximingza greeted him with a charming smile on her beautiful face as he made his way onto the stage. I did. Thank you for taking the time to train me even though you're in the middle of something major. Don't even mention it. We are pretty much finished with the biggest issues and our investigations. In our current state, we need to take things slowly, since we have 2 more cities to deal with. Ximingza said. Anyways, let's talk about your dragon's authority, shall we? Yuan nodded. As my husband had already mentioned, dragon's authority is a superior version of dragon's gaze, allowing you to command the dragon race as long as they have a weaker bloodline than you. With that being said, you're a human without a dragon's bloodline, so I am not exactly sure how things will work out for you, as I have never heard of such a thing before. Though, since it worked before, I don't think there'll be any problems for you. And since you clearly haven't mastered the technique, I am going to help you. It's quite simple, really. You will use dragon's authority on me until you have complete control over it. Normally it would require millennials to master such a technique, but knowing your heaven-defying talents, I have confidence that you'll be able to master it within months if not weeks. Any questions? He shook his head. Good. Then you may begin whenever you are ready. Shimingza proceeded to mentally prepare herself for his dragon's authority. Yuan took a deep breath and closed his eyes to recall how he felt when he first used dragon's authority by accident. When he reopened his eyes a few moments later, they gleamed with a profound golden hue, radiating an overwhelming and authoritative aura. The ambience in the vicinity underwent an abrupt transformation, as if a divine presence had descended upon the surroundings. Shimingza's body trembled in awe when she met Yuan's profound gaze. Despite having mentally prepared herself, she still found it difficult to withstand its pressure and allure. This will be good training for me, as well, she thought to herself. As Yuan continued to use dragon's authority on Shimingza, he could feel his mastery over it quickly improve. Shimingza had anticipated that her training with Yuan would span several weeks if not months. However, by the day's end, Yuan had already achieved a complete mastery of dragon's authority. Ding! Immortal Monarch's Dominion, Rank, Supreme, Mastery Level, 1, Description, a divine technique wielded by the Immortal Monarch, enabling him to exert dominion over any creature upon which his gaze falls. Huh! Yuan was taken aback as the notification displayed a technique name different from what he had anticipated. Immortal Monarch's Dominion? What happened to dragon's authority? Yuan mumbled in a dumbfounded voice. What's the matter? Shimingza asked him when she noticed his weird expression. It's somewhat difficult to put into words, but it appears I haven't been training in dragon's authority, Yuan admitted with a perplexed tone. What do you mean? Shimingza tilted her head in a puzzled manner. I understand the concept of dragon's authority, which commands dragons, but do you know of a technique surpassing it? One that exerts dominion over all creatures in the world? Yuan inquired with curiosity. A technique superior to dragon's authority? Commanding all creatures in the world? Shimingza was speechless. Yuan nodded. I believe my dragon's authority is actually something different, and it allows me to command beasts beyond dragons. Shimingza began pondering with a serious expression on her face. I recall reading a particular scroll in the family library long ago that recounted the tale of a man from ancient times possessing such an ability, the capability to command all the creatures of the world. However, its accuracy is dubious at best. Shimingza looked at Yuan with a nervous face as she inquired, Are you suggesting that your dragon's authority possesses such a remarkable capability? Do you comprehend the weight of the assertion you're making? I know it sounds ridiculous, but I'm serious. I'm not accusing you of falsehood, Shimingza suddenly added, but if I am to persuade myself that such an ability truly exists, I must witness it firsthand with my own eyes. Yuan smiled. I understand completely, and I don't blame you. He proceeded to turn his head to look at Feng Yuxiang and Lan Yingying, who were sitting not far away from the stage. Feng, Yingying, do you mind coming on the stage for a quick experiment? It would be my honor to assist you, young master. Feng Yuxiang exclaimed enthusiastically as she stepped forward toward the stage. I also don't mind. Lan Yingying said as she followed behind Feng Yuxiang. What's happening? Shimeli was intrigued by the sudden turn of events and also made her way to the stage, wondering what they were going to do. Once they were on the stage, Yuan asked them, I am going to use dragon's authority on you two to see if it works on creatures beyond dragons. Do you mind? You can do anything you want to me, young master. Feng Yuxiang responded in a teasing tone. Lan Yingying calmly nodded in silence, agreeing with her. What makes you think ITLL work on creatures beyond dragons? She merely asked out of curiosity. Just a hunch. He smiled mysteriously. After giving Feng Yuxiang and Lan Yingying a moment to prepare themselves, Yuan looked at Feng Yuxiang and asked her, I will start with you. Are you ready? She nodded with a serious expression. I am ready. C1234 A Dangerous Ability. Chapter 1234 A Dangerous Ability 1234 A Dangerous Ability. After Feng Yuxiang expressed her readiness, Yuan contemplated how he should utilize the Immortal Monarch's dominion on her. Naturally, he recognized the need to issue a command that would compel her to perform an action she would typically avoid or hesitate to undertake. After all, if the command was too easy, it wouldn't really prove to Shimingza his capabilities. Eventually, Yuan thought of something, but before he used Immortal Monarch's dominion on her, he apologized to her first. I would like to apologize in advance. Sorry. Hearing such a thing only made Feng Yuxiang nervous about what he had planned for her. Why, young master? Please go easy on me. Without responding to her plea, Yuan activated Immortal Monarch's dominion. Feng Yuxiang's body immediately froze with Yuan glaring at her. I want you to pick your right nose hole with your right pinky and make chicken noises, Yuan commanded her. Feng Yuxiang's eyes widened with shock, as did Lan Yingying and the others there. Shimingza's nerves fluttered, her gaze fixed on Feng Yuxiang, pondering whether she would truly engage in such potentially humiliating tasks. She couldn't help but empathize, imagining herself in Feng Yuxiang's position, dreading the prospect of performing actions so embarrassing that she would rather face death. Why, young master? I know I said that I'd do anything for you, but this is a little too much. Please. I'd rather walk the streets naked. In the midst of her begging, Feng Yuxiang's body started moving on their own accord. All eyes in the vicinity remained transfixed as Feng Yuxiang gingerly inserted her right pinky finger into her right nostril, simultaneously emitting chicken-like clucking noises, creating an absurd spectacle that left the onlookers in stunned amazement. PFTT. Xiao Hua nearly burst out laughing after witnessing Feng Yuxiang's humiliating act. You can stop now. Yuan quickly deactivated Immortal Monarch's dominion. Feng Yuxiang had been under the influence of Immortal Monarch's dominion for just 5 seconds, yet for her, it seemed like an agonizing eternity, more than sufficient to subject her to profound humiliation. Young master. Feng Yuxiang uttered in a low voice as she fell to her knees, looking like she'd just suffered the worst defeat in her life. Sorry, again. I needed you to do something you wouldn't normally agree to do. I'll make it up to you. Yuan tried his best to soothe her, but alas, Feng Yuxiang remained kneeling on the floor in silence. Yuan. You're not going to make me do that too, right? Lan Yingying was looking at him with a terrified expression on her face. Yuan turned to look at Shimingza and asked her, do you still need more proof or? No, I am already convinced that it's real. Shimingza quickly shook her head, as she didn't know if she could endure watching another public humiliation. What? That's not fair. Feng Yuxiang suddenly exclaimed. You called for the two of us, so you should test it on her as well. Even if you say that. Yuan didn't know how to respond. It's okay. Lan Yingying suddenly said, she's right. It won't be fair to her if I don't experience it as well. Are you sure? Lan Yingying nodded, just give me a few more moments to prepare myself. Take as much time as you need. Sometime later, Lan Yingying said, okay, I am ready. Yuan nodded, and he activated Immortal Monarch's dominion on her. I want you to get on the floor and act like you're a worm, in your human form. Lan Yingying subconsciously tried resisting the Immortal Monarch's dominion, but almost as though she had turned into a puppet with strings tied to her body, she lay on the floor and started squirming around like a worm. One could argue that Feng Yuxiang still got the shorter end of the stick, but she seemed satisfied with the results and didn't complain. You can stop now, Yuan said a moment later. However, Lan Yingying did not immediately get off the floor. Instead, she remained lying there with her face kissing the floor, almost as though she was too embarrassed to even show her face. You can be quite cruel if you want to be, Yuan. This was truly unexpected. Shi Mingzi said to him. Yuan could only respond with a stiff smile. A few moments later, Shi Mingzi turned to look at Feng Yuxiang and asked her, "Can you tell me how it felt? Did you try resisting his command?" Feng Yuxiang nodded. "I did, but it felt like my body had stopped listening to me. No matter how hard I tried to resist it, I couldn't prevent the humiliation." Indeed. It was like someone else had taken control over my body. It was a more terrifying experience than I expected. Lan Yingying shuddered just recalling it. A dragon's authority that works on all creatures. As powerful as it may sound, it's also an incredibly dangerous ability to have, Yuan. If word gets out that you can command any beast at will, they will hunt you down because you are a threat to their very existence. Shi Mingzi warned him. In the event that a magical beast with the ability to control humans and make them act against their will were to appear, there would be no question that humans would relentlessly pursue and hunt down such a creature. This same logic applied to humans, as well. It would be for the best if you kept this ability a secret. Even better if you don't use it at all if you don't need to. Yuan nodded. "I agree. I don't enjoy forcing others to do things against their will, too." Sometime later, Shi Mingzi said to Yuan, "I am going to make a trip to the family library to see if I can learn more about your ability. In the meantime, you can go back to rest." "I understand." Shi Mingzi left the scene shortly after. "Young master, you owe us for today," Feng Yuxiang said to him as they returned to their rooms. "I know." C1235 Primordial Phoenix's Contribution. Chapter 1235 Primordial Phoenix's Contribution. 1235 Primordial Phoenix's Contribution. After returning to his room with Xiao Hua and the others, Yuan asked Feng Yuxiang, "Can you tell me what you know about the Primordial Phoenix? After that, I'll tell you about what I know." Feng Yuxiang nodded. Although the Primordial Phoenix wasn't the first phoenix in existence, she somehow managed to surpass the first phoenix's bloodline, which was thought to be impossible. She's also done a lot for the phoenix race, such as giving birth to many phoenixes with a superior bloodline. She gave birth? Yuan couldn't help but stop her after hearing this information. Feng Yuxiang chuckled and said, "Not literally. Just like how dragons can improve their bloodlines by absorbing a superior bloodline, the primordial phoenix shared her bloodline with many phoenix families, hence giving birth. If it weren't for her, the phoenix race wouldn't have as many royal families in this era and lag behind the dragons. Due to her contributions, the phoenix race flourished and became established as a top 3 global power in our world. Hence her importance to the phoenix race." "I see." Yuan mumbled as he digested the information. "Now tell me about your experience with the primordial phoenix," Feng Yuxiang urged. With a serene smile, Yuan began to reminisce, retracing the memories he shared with the primordial phoenix, recounting their initial encounter and the extraordinary adventure that spanned well over 100,000 years, even though their deal had originally been set for just that duration. When Yuan mentioned the smoldered phoenix egg, Feng Yuxiang stopped him and exclaimed in shock, "A billion-year-old smoldered phoenix egg? That's insane. Wait a moment. If it's a billion-year-old smoldered phoenix egg, then it's possible. It might be the very reason the primordial phoenix managed to transcend the bloodline of the first phoenix." Feng Yuxiang had this realization. To think that the young master, your incarnation, played a pivotal role in our history. I dare say the phoenix race might find it hard to accept that a human was the catalyst for their flourishing. I suppose we can't be certain that the smoldered phoenix egg is the definitive cause behind the evolution of the primordial phoenix's bloodline, Yuan mused. "No, it's almost certain that's the cause," Feng Yuxiang responded confidently. "A mere 10,000-year-old smoldered phoenix egg would incite a war among the phoenix race in our present era. I can scarcely fathom the potency of a billion-year-old smoldered phoenix egg. Nothing is more effective than the smoldered phoenix egg when it comes to improving a phoenix's bloodline. Anyways, tell me more about the primordial phoenix herself. Did she have any hobbies? What did she like to eat? I want the personal details. Yuan nodded and continued to recall Dragon Goddess Yu's memories of Feng Yumming. Meanwhile, on the other side of the palace, inside Shi Mingze and Shi Xingmo's room. How was your training with Yuan today? Shi Xingmo asked her when she returned late at night. You won't believe me even if I told you. She shrugged. Try me. She sighed deeply before speaking. Not only did he achieve mastery over Dragon's authority in just one day, but it appears that his Dragon's authority was an entirely different power altogether. Huh? What do you mean by a different power? It's not Dragon's authority. Shi Xingmo raised an eyebrow. No, it's not. In fact, it's even stronger than Dragon's authority, incomparably stronger. What could possibly be stronger than Dragon's authority? Shi Xingmo frowned. I don't have a name for it, but if I were to give it one, it'd be perfect authority, as he has the ability to command not only dragons but other beasts as well. What? Shi Xingmo exclaimed in astonishment upon learning about Immortal Monarch's dominion for the first time. That's not possible. The heavens would not allow such a technique to exist. Despite that, it exists. I watched him make a phoenix and a divine serpent do things that I'd rather die than do myself. And apparently, there used to be another man who had such an ability in ancient times. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any information on him. Shi Xingmo clasped his hands together as he tried to stop them from shaking. The power to command all creatures under the heavens. If other races were to discover this, Yuan would be in grave peril, hunted from all sides. Such an ability should never be allowed to exist, Shi Xingmo spoke with a somber tone. I already warned him about it, but I still cannot help but worry. Shi Xingmo closed his eyes and sighed, I'm more worried for our daughter, who will be following him. If you're thinking about, don't worry, I am not even thinking about it. She's already made her decision, and we made ours. No matter what happens from this point forth, it's the path that she chose to walk, and I will support it. Back in Yuan's room, Xiao Hua suddenly asked him, Brother Yuan, when do you plan on leaving this place? Yuan had a dumbfounded look on his face when he heard Xiao Hua's question. Now that you mention it, we've been here for a while. The Nameless Emperor's tomb should have been sealed shut by now. I wonder whether we'll emerge within the tomb or find ourselves outside when we depart from this location. Anyways, I'll see if there's anything else for us to do here. If not, we'll make our way back. The following day, she merely knocked on Yuan's room again. Yuan, my parents would like to speak with you whenever you're free. I would also like to speak with them. Let's go now. Yuan said. Okay. Sometime later, she merely brought Yuan to her parents. Yuan, I scoured the entire library yesterday, but I couldn't uncover any additional information about the individual who might have possessed the same ability as yours. It simply mentioned the existence of such a person in ancient times and nothing more, Shi Mingze reported. I see. Thank you for trying anyway. Yuan said. C1236 The War Between Humans and Dragons. Chapter 1236 The War Between Humans and Dragons 1236 The War Between Humans and Dragons, ahem. Shi Xingmo cleared his throat and began speaking of your unique ability. I know my wife already warned you, but I will warn you again. You must never let anyone know of your ability to command all beasts under heaven. Hell, even if you can only control half of the beasts out there, you will still be deemed a threat to beasts and be hunted by them from all over the world. I cannot stress how important it is that you keep that knowledge yourself, especially since my daughter will be following you from now on. Yuan nodded and spoke as he pounded on his chest. Don't worry, I won't let anyone that I want trust with my life know about it, and I won't even think about using it unless it's a life or death situation. As for your daughter, I will keep her safe even at the cost of my own life. She merely blushed after hearing his words, and she quickly responded, and I will do my best to keep out of trouble so you won't have to do that. Now then. There's one more thing I would like to tell you, Yuan. Shi Xingmo said. Although we cannot tell you any more about this man from ancient times, I know where you may be able to acquire such information. In the fourth heaven, there exists a place called the Pavilion of Knowledge that is managed by the Xian family. They are of the dragon race and were great friends to my father. In fact, they used to work for him. Let them know that I sent you. The Xian family, correct? I will definitely look for them once I enter the fourth heaven. Good, because the Xian family specializes in record keeping and has vast knowledge when it comes to the world of beasts. If anyone knows about a man who can command beasts, it'll be them. You'll be leaving soon, right? Shi Mingzi suddenly said, deducting his plans before he even uttered a word about it. Yuan nodded. Yes, I came here by accident again, so I still have some unfinished business back in the third heaven. If there's no need for my presence here, I will leave. As much as I want to keep you here to be my sparring partner, I will have to wait for the next time you accidentally return to the ancient dragon city. Shi Mingzi chuckled. Yuan also laughed. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. In fact, I have a feeling that I will return here again. Even if I don't, I will make sure to visit when I have the time. If you ever desire to return to this place of your own accord, you can do so in the sixth heaven, where the gateway to this realm is concealed, Shi Xingma suddenly revealed. I may not be certain of the exact location of the gateway, but it will be situated in a domain where the influence of dragons holds sway, Shi Xingma elaborated. The sixth heaven? That's quite far away. Yuan mumbled to himself. Maybe to others, but knowing you, it won't take longer than 10 years for you to climb that far. Shi Mingzi smiled. Anyways, before you leave, I would like to throw a banquet. Do you think you can stay until then? It will only take a few days to prepare. Shi Mingzi continued. I can do that. Yuan nodded. Excellent. Then I will immediately start the preparations. In the meantime, do you think I can use your library? Yuan asked. Of course. You're essentially part of the family now, so you can treat this place as if it's your own home. Shi Xingma smiled. Thank you. Shi Xingma turned to look at Shi Meili and said to her, since you'll be leaving soon, you should start packing your things. I know. I already started. You seem eager to leave. Shi Xingma sighed. Obviously. I have spent too much time in this small world already. If you'd spent too much time, what about me? I've spent over 1,000,000 years in here. Shi Xingma shook his head. If you don't like it here, why don't you just leave? Are you still worried about the humans outside? Shi Meili asked. Hardly. I am staying here because it's my duty as its ruler. The people here need me, now more than ever. However, if the day that I am no longer needed in this world, I will leave. Father. Shi Meili admired his selflessness. If she was in his shoes, she wasn't sure if she'd be able to sacrifice herself for the people. Sometime later, Yuan went to notify Xiao Hua and the others that they would be leaving after the banquet and that he would spend the next several days in the library. Thus, for the next few days, Yuan devoted himself entirely to the library, immersing himself in the pursuit of knowledge. While the majority of the library's collection pertained to the Shi family and their history, there were also texts that chronicled the historical conflict between humans and dragons. The conflict started shortly after dragon goddess Yeyou met the immortal monarch, Tian. According to the texts, after the demons were defeated by the divine paragon, humanity desperately needed to rebuild its strength. Although the knowledge that dragon blood benefited humans greatly even before the demons appeared existed, not many people actually went out of their way to hunt dragons. Yet, a dramatic shift occurred when desperation gripped humanity. In their pursuit of survival and strength, humans began hunting dragons en masse, driven by the desperate quest to obtain their precious blood. Although blood from other non-dragon creatures also conferred benefits upon humans, it paled in comparison to the potency of dragon blood, a synergy that seemed ordained by the heavens themselves. Naturally, given the gravity of the crisis, rectifying this dire situation became the foremost priority for Tian. It was this endeavor that catapulted his name into the limelight and marked the inception of his enduring legacy. Regrettably, the historical records in Yuan's grasp remained silent on the conclusion of the conflict and omitted any reference to Tian-yi, as the Shi family and many other dragons had ventured into the ancient dragon city long before a conclusive end was reached and Tian-yi's name was spread. C1237 Proclamation of Marriage. Chapter 1237 Proclamation of Marriage. 1237 Proclamation of Marriage. After spending several days in the Shi family's library, Yuan gleaned a profound understanding of why the Shi family and other dragons had sought refuge within the ancient dragon city. He uncovered accounts of the heinous atrocities and excruciating suffering inflicted upon dragons by humans, delving into the sweeping conflict that had engulfed the entirety of the divine heavens in a war between humans and dragons. Unfortunately, he could not find anything about the immortal monarch besides a brief mention of him, just as Ximingza had said. Yuan departed from the library once he was satisfied with his research, and almost as if she had anticipated his exit, she merely appeared at the far end of the hallway at the same time, steadily making her way toward him. Excellent timing. I was actually searching for you to let you know that the banquet has been arranged, she merely called out to him from across the hallway as soon as she spotted him. Yuan nodded and responded with a smile, perfect timing indeed. I am starving. Hold on. You're back to your normal appearance, Yuan. Looks like the transformation was temporary, after all. She merely said. Would you have preferred that it was permanent? Yuan asked in a joking manner. She merely chuckled. As handsome as you were in your dragon form, I actually prefer your human appearance. There's just something about it that's very attractive, at least it is to me. Anyways, follow me. Everyone is already at the banquet. After a short while, Yuan and Shi merely arrived at the designated banquet location, which had been arranged in the front courtyard of the palace. There's a lot more people here than I anticipated. Yuan was surprised by the crowd there. I also thought it was a private banquet for us, but that wasn't the case. My parents invited pretty much all of their friends and whatnot. Not sure why, though. Shi merely said. When Ximingza noticed them, she quickly approached them. What do you think? She asked Yuan. A little grander than I anticipated, he said with a smile. I had initially planned for a private banquet, but upon further consideration, I've chosen to make it public. This gathering is to commemorate your remarkable accomplishments and also serves as a farewell celebration for Meili, Ximingza explained with a warm smile. I see, follow me. I'll introduce you to everyone. Ximingza suddenly grabbed Yuan's hand and guided him towards a platform. Once they were standing on the platform, Ximingza cleared her throat loudly, her voice rippling throughout the entire courtyard. The thousands of guests there halted whatever they were doing and turned their attention to her. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to our banquet despite the short notice and the evolving situation after our recent incident with the Azure Dragon family and the Emerald Dragon family. I would like to take a moment to introduce you to the hero of our city, Yuan. Ximingza introduced him to everyone. Everyone immediately started cheering, causing the area to tremble with excitement. Yuan's name had permeated every corner of the ancient dragon city and beyond after the resolution of the conflict. Despite wanting to remain low-key, the sheer magnitude of his achievements made it impossible to evade the spotlight. His actions left an indelible mark, and the tales of his accomplishments will be woven into the fabric of the cities and their histories. The people learned of his unparalleled bravery during the conflict, and they marveled at the depths of his prowess that had thwarted the Azure Dragon family and the Emerald Dragon family's audacious schemes to challenge the Shi family's authority pretty much by himself. Once the cheering eventually calmed down, Ximingza continued, as you all know by now, if he hadn't stepped in to stop the Azure Dragon family and ended the war before it even began, our city would have suffered irreparable damage, and thousands would have died. Ximingza proceeded to speak of the incident for a bit before changing the subject. Now, as we gather to commemorate Yuan's extraordinary feats, I stand before you with yet another proclamation. My daughter, Shi Meili, has chosen to walk alongside him, so he is no longer just a guest, but now an integral and cherished member of the Shi family, Shi Meili's mother declared, her words resonating with deep significance and profound emotion. This announcement, essentially a proclamation of marriage between Yuan and Shi Meili, sent ripples of astonishment cascading through the gathered guests, leaving them profoundly taken aback. Despite the enormity of Yuan's accomplishments, no one there had anticipated that the Shi family would allow a human to become part of their lineage, let alone entrust their precious daughter to him. The revelation had defied all expectations and left the assembly deeply stunned. Mother. Did you really have to announce that to everyone? Shi Mei's face was flushed with redness. Shi Mingzi merely responded to her with a profound smile. Since Yuan would be leaving the ancient dragon city soon, she wanted to make sure that nobody would have any funny ideas once he left. The announcement of Yuan's integration into their family served as both a statement of their bond and a stern warning to those with ill intentions, making it abundantly clear that they'd have to deal with him if they were ever to mess with the Shi family. When the guests snapped out of their shock, they started cheering for them. "See, congratulations, Princess Shi. Congratulations, Yuan." Someone there suddenly cheered. "I extend my heartfelt well wishes for your future together, Princess Shi and Yuan." Another guest chimed in, offering their blessings to the couple. We're not even in that kind of relationship, yet. Shi Mei cried inwardly, and she could feel her entire face smoking from embarrassment. As for Yuan, he could only stand there with a stiff smile on his face. Shi Xingma gave his own speech shortly after. Eventually, the banquet began, and Yuan immediately started stuffing his face with food. Perhaps it was because of his transformation, but had never felt hungrier before. Heavens! Despite being a human, his appetite definitely wouldn't lose to any of us. The guests were baffled by Yuan's ability to eat, and not wanting to lose to him, they also started stuffing their faces with food. Follow current novels on Top Novel Full. CM. C1238 Furious Dragon. Chapter 1238 Furious Dragon. 1238 Furious Dragon. The banquet lasted for several days, and during this time, Yuan stuffed his face with very few short breaks in between. "It's like you have never eaten before." Shi Murong was astonished by Yuan's bottomless appetite as the food on their table disappeared faster than it could be replenished. "I think it's due to my transformation. I might have used a little too much energy," Yuan said. "That's only natural since we consume more energy when we are transformed. It might even be worse for you since you are a human," Shi Mingzi said. "Speaking of transformation, it seems you've finally returned to your original form. What a pity. I really liked your dragon appearance." Shi Mingzi sighed. "Can you transform again if you want to?" Shi Xingma suddenly asked. "I don't know. I haven't tried to yet." Yuan shook his head. "Just like your dragon's authority, I believe it's worth delving into. If you can transform at will, it could become a valuable technique to have up your sleeve in emergencies," Shi Mei said. "I will." He nodded. "So, what will you be doing after you return to the outside world?" Shi Xingma asked him sometime later. "I'm not exactly sure yet, but I do have some unfinished business. After that, I'll probably start preparing to enter the fourth heaven." "And to think you were still in the lower heaven only a year ago." Shi Mingzi sighed in awe. Once the banquet was over, Yuan returned to his room to rest for the day. Meanwhile, Shi Xingma called for Shi Mei's presence. "Why are we in the treasury, father?" Shi Mei asked him. Shi Xingma didn't respond to her and led her to the most secure and deepest part of the treasury, where a certain weapon was resting. "Dragon Soul?" Shi Mei mumbled the name of the weapon when she saw it. "As you're already aware, the Dragon Soul is the treasured legacy of our family, an inheritance that has traversed generations. Today, I shall entrust this cherished legacy to you, to accompany you on your journey," Shi Xingma declared solemnly, his words carrying the weight of generations past and future. "Huh?" Shi Mei's eyes widened with surprise upon hearing this. And she quickly said, "But it doesn't even respond to me. It'll only be wasted on me. You should keep it here in case someone who can wield is it born." Shi Mingzi, who was there with them, spoke. "When I wielded the dragon's soul during my spar with Yuan, it had a reaction, almost as though it was trying to wake up. I thought I was just imagining it at that time, but now, I believe it was reacting to Yuan's presence. She merely pondered her words and spoke a moment later. Now that you mention it, the dragon's soul had a reaction when I used it, and Yuan was nearby. Anyways, if the dragon's soul is reacting to Yuan, why are you giving it to me? He should be the one to receive it, not me. I am entrusting it to you instead of Yuan because I swore upon my soul that I would not give it to someone who is not part of the family, as much as I want to do so, and he is not officially part of the family even if we recognize him as family. However, you never made such a pact, so you can hand it to him without worrying about your soul shattering. I see. Shi Mei finally understood the situation. Of course, we have something else for you. Shi Mingzi smiled. She proceeded to retrieve another spear and offered it to Shi Mei. Mother, this is... Shi Mei nearly gasped in shock after seeing the weapon in her mother's grasp. Indeed, this is Furious Dragon, my own personal weapon. It was given to me by your father after our marriage, but I barely got to use it. So, instead of letting it rot in storage, I have decided to give it to you, with your father's approval, of course. Are you sure, Mother? Shi Mei swallowed nervously, her hesitation as clear as day. Take it. I prefer using my hands, anyway. Shi Mingzi chuckled. Shi Mei turned to look at Shi Xingma, who nodded his head in approval. Thank you, Mother. Thank you, Father. Shi Mei accepted the spear with a bright smile on her face. It may not be a soul weapon like the dragon's soul, but it's a mythic-grade spiritual treasure nonetheless, and it was forged by the renowned Hua dragon family. You may not be familiar with their name, as they chose to remain outside this world, but they were a famous family of blacksmiths back in the day, and it was an honor to have something crafted by them even for those with royal bloodlines. Shi Xingma explained. Soul weapon or not, I will treasure it. Shi Mei said as she caressed the spear lovingly. Don't forget this one. Shi Xingma said as he handed her the dragon's soul. Shi Mei nodded and stored both spears in her spatial ring shortly after. Take this one, too. It has some essentials for your journey, such as medicine and cultivation resources. Shi Mingzi handed a different spatial ring to her. Shi Mei accepted the spatial ring with a solemn expression, and she said, this feels really weird. I never thought I would actually leave this place. Shi Mingzi suddenly hugged her and said, this is your first step to becoming independent, your first step towards the unknown. It's only natural that you feel a little nervous. It's not too late to change your mind. Shi Xingma said in a somewhat joking tone. No, I won't. Just as Mother said, I am a little nervous about leaving you guys, but I am also very excited to explore the unknown. And it's not like I will be doing this by myself. I will have Yuan and the others by my side. Shi Mei said with a resolute expression on her face. Follow current novels on Top Novelfool. Com. C1239 Returning to the Nameless Emperor's Tomb. Chapter 1239 Returning to the Nameless Emperor's Tomb. 1239 Returning to the Nameless Emperor's Tomb. Where do you think you are going, Yeyou? A cold voice resounded as Tian Yeyou tried to sneak outside her home. When she realized that she had been spotted, Tian Yeyou turned around to face Tian Suyin, her mother. I have waited long enough. I am going back to the Nameless Emperor's tomb to look for Xiao Yang. Tian Yeyou declared in a stern voice. It has been several days since the Nameless Emperor's tomb sealed itself shut. After departing from the tomb, Tian Yeyou and Tian Suyin immediately returned home, just as they planned with Yuan before they went their separate ways. Tian Yeyou had hoped Yuan would return swiftly, but as days went by without a sign of him, worry began to gnaw at her, so much so that she hadn't been able to sleep or eat since her own return, consumed by anxiety over his whereabouts and well-being. What do you hope to accomplish by returning to that place? When the Nameless Emperor's tomb closed, everyone inside was forced to leave. If he hasn't returned by now, there could only be two possibilities. He's either dead, or he's alive and decided to leave without saying a word. Tian Suyin shook her head. He's not dead. He cannot be dead. Tian Yeyou refused to believe such a thing. If he's not dead, then he's purposefully avoiding us. In the first place, we don't know his true intentions, why he approached us. I wouldn't be surprised if he used us. And why would he do something like that? It doesn't make any sense. Tian Yeyou exclaimed. How would I know? Just forget about him, Yeyou. You cannot wait for him forever. You're wrong. Xiao Yang wouldn't just abandon us like that. There must be a valid reason for his absence, maybe even something keeping him trapped inside the Nameless Emperor's tomb. Tian Yeyou vehemently argued, clinging to her refusal to accept that Yuan had simply deserted them. What kind of nonsense is that? No one can stay inside the tomb once it seals shut. Even if he were trapped in there, what could we possibly do except wait for it to reopen in 7 years? Tian Suyin retorted, her skepticism undeterred by Tian Yanyu's hopeful perspective. That's... Tian Yeyou fell into a speechless silence, unable to counter Tian Suyin's straightforward logic. Humph. And without saying anything else, Tian Yeyou ran back to her room. Tian Suyin, though deeply concerned for her daughter, recognized the limitations of choices she had in this kind of situation. Drawing upon her own experiences, she understood that even the most gifted cultivators were not immune to death, and attempting to bite off more than one could chew often led to perilous consequences. I'm sure she'll calm down and come to accept the situation when enough time passes. Tian Xianzu materialized seemingly from nowhere, offering his perspective. Tian Suyin couldn't help but express her concerns, sighing deeply. But how long will that take? I'm not sure I can endure several years of perpetual headaches. We must be patient, just like our ancestors, who waited decades for Tian Xinyu to sort his emotions. Tian Xianzu said with a profound smile. Meanwhile, outside the Nameless Emperor's tomb. Hey, why the hell are we still standing around here like some dumbass? Zhao Hui glared at Xiong Lu in a pissed-off manner. I didn't see Yuan come out of the Nameless Emperor's tomb. Xiong Lu said. Then you either missed him or he's dead. There's no way for anyone to remain inside the tomb once it seals its doors shut. Him? Dead? No way. Xiong Lu immediately disregarded such a possibility. And he continued, just wait a few more days. If he doesn't show up after that, well, give up for now. What a waste of time. Zhao Hui sneered as he sat on the ground and began cultivating in silence. The day after the banquet, Yuan and the Shi family gathered at the portal outside Ancient Dragon City, the same one that he came from. Once again, I want to extend my sincere thanks for everything you've done for our family and our city, Yuan. Your presence during this time has been an immeasurable blessing. Shi Mingzi expressed her heartfelt gratitude to Yuan, her words filled with deep appreciation. She turned to look at Shi Meili, who was nervously standing beside him, and continued, don't cause too much trouble for him, you hear? Why would you assume that I am going to cause trouble? Shi Meili said with a cute angry face. Because you're my daughter. Shi Mingzi smiled confidently. Please, take care of our daughter, Yuan. Shi Xingma then said. Yuan nodded solemnly, assuring Shi Mingzi, rest assured, they'll do everything in my power to ensure her safety. Good luck, boss. And see you next time. Shi Murong also said his goodbyes. Best of luck to you and your training, as well. They would continue to exchange farewells for several more minutes before Shi Xingma started activating the portal. The next moment, Xiao Hua and the others seamlessly entered Yuan's body, prompting a puzzled expression from Shi Meili. She couldn't help but inquire, how did you manage to do that? How did you guys do that? Shi Meili had a puzzled look on her face. Feng Yuxiang explained, we have the privilege of residing within his body as his servants. Unless you also choose to become his servant, you'll have to stay outside. Really? Is it even comfortable in there? Very. Shi Meili seriously began pondering about becoming Yuan's servant just so she could experience going inside his body like the others. However, before she could come to a conclusion, the portal activated, teleporting them away. Stay safe, you all. Shi Mingzi mumbled in a low voice afterward. Meanwhile, Yuan and Shi Meili found themselves transported into an empty room. Looks like we're still inside the Nameless Emperor's tomb, Yuan said as he recognized the room to be the same one he used to teleport to Ancient Dragon City. Follow current novels on Top Novelfool. Com. C1240 Master of the Nameless Emperor's Tomb. Chapter 1240 Master of the Nameless Emperor's Tomb. 1240 Master of the Nameless Emperor's Tomb. So, this is what it's like outside, huh? The air and everything just feels so different, Shi Meili remarked casually as she and Yuan exited Ancient Dragon City. She took a deep breath, savoring the change in atmosphere. Well, we're not exactly outside yet, since we are still within the Nameless Emperor's tomb, Yuan said. As they left the portal platform, a notification appeared before Yuan. A real-time projection of Shi Meili appeared the next moment, causing Yuan to raise an eyebrow. Since when did I become the master of this place? He wondered inwardly. Naturally, he refused to kick Shi Meili out of the Nameless Emperor's tomb. Do you want to look around before we leave? Yuan asked Shi Meili, who immediately nodded her head. Alright, give me a minute to figure something out. You can look around this building in the meantime. Sure. As Shi Meili wandered the building, Yuan began trying to figure out what he could do as the master of the Nameless Emperor's tomb. A menu with multiple options showed up when he tried to sense his connection with the Nameless Emperor's tomb. Map, NPC, Treasures, Trials, Other. When he tapped on the Map option, the entirety of the Nameless Emperor's tomb showed up on a massive map, and on this map marked all of the available trials within the tomb, as well as all of the hidden treasures and traps. There's a lot more to this place than I thought. Why did I even make such a place? Surely, it wasn't prepared just for me, as there are trials and treasures that won't benefit me. When he tapped on a location map, another notification appeared before him. Oh, this is really convenient, especially for exploration. Next, he opened up the Treasures option, and just as its name suggested, it listed all treasures in the Nameless Emperor's tomb, including those that weren't available at the moment, such as treasures that have yet to spawn, as well as treasures that would only appear if certain conditions are met. There were hundreds of thousands of treasures available, and when Yuan tapped on a random treasure, a new notification appeared. Out of curiosity, Yuan retrieved the treasure. The treasure materialized right in front of him the next moment. Yuan was speechless. Having unrestricted access to all the treasures concealed within the Nameless Emperor's tomb was a game-changer of epic proportions. If word got out to the outside world, it would undoubtedly drive people into a frenzy. After all, while most had to risk life and limb to lay hands on something valuable, Yuan could simply obtain it with a mere whim. Unfortunately, most of these treasures were useless for him. There were some decently valuable resources, but he didn't really need them at the moment, as he wouldn't be able to transcend Spirit King without evolving his physique. Yuan proceeded to sort the treasures from the rarest to the most common. The highest grade of equipment available was ancient grade, and there were only 6 of them left. Although I won't have any use for them, I can sell them for some money. Yuan remembered how poor he was in terms of currency and decided to snatch the ancient grade treasures to sell later. He also retrieved a bunch of cultivation resources and some divine grade treasures, but he had no intentions of selling those, as he planned on giving them to his friends. He thought about giving the ancient grade treasures, but they were simply too powerful and had extremely high stat requirements that would require them years of cultivating to meet. Since these are technically mine, there shouldn't be any problems if I take some. Yuan thought to himself as he stored the treasures in a separate spatial ring. He looked at the Trials option next, and as expected, it showed all of the available trials in the Nameless Emperor's tomb, as well as their intricacies. Next, he peeked into NPC, which listed all of the NPCs that assisted the Nameless Emperor's tomb. Yuan noticed Jean Zai's name at the very top of this list, and his immediate response was to try and summon her. However, Yuan quickly stopped himself and decided against summoning Jean Shi, as he did not want to ruin the last moments he had with her. There were other NPCs, but they were just generic individuals created only for the purpose of their specific trials. Monsters were also categorized as NPCs. Yuan looked into Other next. With this option, he could basically change anything he wanted about the Nameless Emperor's tomb. He could shift mountains and rivers, breathe life into existence, and erase anything he chose. In this world, he was literally God. He also realized that he could bring the Nameless Emperor's tomb with him on his journey if he desired. There was so much he could do with the Nameless Emperor's tomb, but Yuan decided to keep everything the same, as it was intended by his incarnation. Sometime later, she merely returned to the room. What kind of scenery do you want to see? Yuan suddenly asked her. She merely pondered for a moment before responding, would like to see an ocean. Yuan nodded, and he proceeded to teleport them to an area in the Nameless Emperor's tomb that had the best-looking ocean scenery. What just happened? She merely was greatly surprised by what he had just done. As the owner of this place, I can teleport us anywhere I want within this world, he causally explained. What exactly is this place? The Nameless Emperor's tomb. It was created by my incarnation. You're what? She merely looked at him with wide eyes. Yuan then said with a serious expression, since you'll be following me, I think it's only right to tell you a little more about me. She merely swallowed nervously after sensing the change in atmosphere, and she had never seen Yuan so serious before. Go ahead, this might sound crazy but... Yuan proceeded to tell her about his true identity, how he was the reincarnation of several prominent figures in the 9 heavens and that he was in the process of regaining their memories. Follow current novels on Top Novelfool.com. C1241 An Unexpected Transformation. Chapter 1241 An Unexpected Transformation. 1241 An Unexpected Transformation. As she merely listened to Yuan's ridiculous story of his reincarnation, her eyes would grow larger and larger until they could no longer physically widen anymore. However, as crazy as he sounded, she merely believed in every word that came out of his mouth without thinking for a moment that he was messing with her. Many minutes later, Yuan ended his story. That's the truth about my identity. After moments of silence, she merely mumbled in an excited voice, I knew you were special when I first saw you, Yuan, but I didn't think you would be this special. Now everything makes sense, at least a little more sense. Sorry for keeping this a secret until now. I won't blame you if you no longer want to follow me. Yuan suddenly said with a solemn look on his face. Huh? Why would I want to leave you? I don't care if you're the evil god or whatever, I don't even know any of them. What made me follow you was you, Yuan, and unless you're magically going to change into a different person, this new information doesn't change anything for me. Thank you, anyway, I have to admit, while your various incarnations don't particularly mean anything to me, she merely admitted, her curiosity piqued only slightly. But this immortal monarch, he does catch my attention. If the dragon blood my family's been using for generations is actually tied to dragon goddess Yeyou, not the dragon ancestor we always believed, I can't help but wonder about the connection our ancestors had with her, she mused. Since she was born and grew up in the ancient dragon city, she merely had never heard of the evil god or the divine paragon, so those names meant next to nothing to her. But when it came to the immortal monarch, who was also known as the monarch of beasts, she couldn't help but be a tad more curious. I only have a fragment of dragon goddess Yu's memories, so I cannot answer your question. As for the immortal monarch's memories, I am still waiting for them to return. Yuan said. How do your memories return? Does it just return randomly, or is there a certain trigger? It's mostly random, but there were times that I had to collect my memories. Kind of like a treasure hunt. He shrugged. With her inquiries satisfied, she merely shifted her attention to the vast expanse of the glistening ocean that extended endlessly before her, its beauty captivating her gaze as it stretched toward the distant horizon. What do you think? Yuan asked her sometime later. It's beautiful and unique. While there are artificial ponds and even lakes in the ancient dragon city, this is my first time seeing something of this scale. If there's anything else that you want to see, I can take you there. Yuan then said. I would like to see mountains next. All right. Yuan teleported them directly in front of a mountain range a moment later. Wow, they look so different compared to the ones in ancient Dragon City. They're so much taller and majestic. Over the next several hours, Yuan would take Shimeli around the Nameless Emperor's tomb, satisfying her desire to explore to her heart's content. Once she was satisfied, Shimeli requested to return to their first scenery by the ocean. Yuan complied, and the next moment, they returned to their original spot. If the world in this place is already so beautiful, I cannot wait to see what the real world has in store for me. Shimeli spoke with a smile. Are you ready to leave? Yuan then asked. Just one more thing. Shimeli proceeded to retrieve a familiar-looking spear and extended it towards Yuan, seemingly offering it to him. Isn't this the dragon's soul? You brought it with you? Yuan recognized the soul weapon at a glance. Yes, my father gave it to me. Now, I am giving it to you. Huh? Isn't this your family's heirloom? I cannot accept it, especially when your parents gave it to you. Yuan immediately refused to accept the dragon's soul. Shimeli proceeded to explain, while father did give it to me, he had no choice but to do so because he made a pact that he could only pass it down to a family member. He wanted to pass it down to you, but since you're not officially part of the family, he couldn't do so without risking his soul. However, I didn't make such a pact, hence why he gave it to me, so I could hand it to you. Shimeli pushed the dragon's soul closer to him. Even if you say that. The dragon's soul is a soul weapon. Unless it accepts me as its master, I won't be able to use it. You won't know until you give it a shot, Shimeli said, wearing a confident smile on her beautiful face. If you say so, Yuan eventually accepted the dragon's soul. As his fingers closed around the spear's handle, he sensed a surge from within, an immense power stirring, as if eager to awaken. Without any hesitation, Yuan offered his blood to the dragon's soul, which greedily absorbed it without delay. The dragon's soul began to tremble, and the dragon around it suddenly began to move as though it was alive. Before long, the dragon's soul, which had initially appeared rather ordinary, underwent a remarkable transformation, morphing into a stunningly beautiful spear. As the transformation reached its end, the dragon's soul unleashed a thunderous dragon's roar, a sound so deafening that it resonated throughout the entirety of the Nameless Emperor's tomb. Upon hearing the dragon's roar, Yuan felt an uncanny sense of familiarity wash over him, as if he had encountered this very sound in some distant memory. His gaze locked onto the transformed dragon's soul with a look of disbelief, and he mumbled in a dazed tone, "Dragon Goddess Yeyou?" In response to Yuan's utterance, the dragon's soul emitted a brilliant, golden radiance. A moment later, the dragon's soul vanished from Yuan's grasp, and a tall figure materialized before him. It's truly you. Yuan swallowed nervously as he stared at Dragon Goddess Yu's ethereal face. Follow current novels on Top Novelfool. Com. C1242 Dragon Goddess Yeyou's Soul. Chapter 1242 Dragon Goddess Yu's Soul. 1242 Dragon Goddess Yu's Soul. Yuan found himself profoundly shaken as Dragon Goddess Yeyou materialized before him, emerging from thin air. Yet, as he snapped out of his daze and observed her form more closely, he noticed that she appeared semi-transparent, as if she were not but a ghost, an illusion. Dragon Goddess Yeyou? Why are you? Yuan tried calling out to her, only to halt abruptly as a mysterious furrow formed on her brow, seemingly displeased about something. Suddenly, without any further explanation, Dragon Goddess Yeyou disappeared like a cloud of smoke, and the dragon's soul reappeared in Yuan's grasp. Dragon's Soul, Level 0, Rank, Soul Weapon, Growth Rate, Fast, Requirement. Description: a beautiful golden spear with an unknown origin. It is shrouded with a mysterious aura that will render all spiritual energy useless. Partially. Yuan wondered inwardly. What in heaven's name was that about? Who was that beauty just now? Shimeli exclaimed a moment later, her voice tinged with bewilderment and astonishment. That person was Dragon Goddess Yeyou. Yuan responded. What? That was Dragon Goddess Yeyou? Shimeli became even more shocked after learning of this information. So the dragon's soul is actually related to dragon goddess Yeyou. No wonder why it reacted to you, who is the reincarnation of the immortal monarch. She merely said. Do you have any idea why or how dragon goddess Yeyou showed up just now? Yuan asked a moment later. Unfortunately, I have never seen or heard of anything like this before. She merely shook her head. I have. Xiao Hua's voice suddenly resounded. Really? Yuan was pleasantly surprised and eagerly awaited her explanation. While soul weapons may attain a form of consciousness, they can never become a real soul on their own. However, they do possess the capacity to house another soul, should someone choose to bestow one within. Although I cannot state this with absolute certainty, it is conceivable that Dragon Goddess Yu's very soul may have been placed within this soul weapon, and what you witnessed moments ago could have been a manifestation of her soul, Xiao Hua explained. Yuan swallowed nervously at the notion that Dragon Goddess Yu's soul could be resting within the dragon's soul. If she is really inside the dragon's soul, is there any way to bring her out? Yuan then asked. Even if there is a way to do so, it wouldn't be a good idea. Xiao Hua said while shaking her head. After all, she is only a soul without her body at this moment. If you bring her out of the soul weapon in her state, her soul will definitely disappear, or worse, be destroyed. Hearing this, Yuan felt helpless. Is there really no way to help her? He sighed. As Xiao Hua said, we don't know if it really contains Dragon Goddess Yu's soul. What happened just now could be an entirely different matter. She merely suddenly said. For now, we should try to learn more about the soul weapon before we start trying things. Yuan nodded. You're right. I shouldn't be so impatient. If it really contains Dragon Goddess Yu's soul, I'm sure we'll figure out how to bring her out safely, if that's even what she desires. Sometime later, Yuan stored the dragon's soul inside his body alongside Empyrean Overlord and Starry Abyss. So, are we ready to leave now? Yuan asked Shi Meili, who quickly nodded. Wait. Feng Yuxiang's voice suddenly resounded. What's the matter? Yuan asked. We're fine right now because we're still inside the Nameless Emperor's tomb, but once we go outside, Shi Meili's cultivation will be too high for the third heaven, and she might be forced to ascend. Feng Yuxiang reminded him that only those below Spirit Emperor could remain in the third heaven, and Shi Meili was a Spirit Emperor. You're right. I completely forgot about this rule. Yuan face-bombed. There's an easy fix to that. I can simply restrict my cultivation to Spirit King. She merely closed her eyes and began suppressing her cultivation base until it reached the peak of Spirit King, just like Yuan. Will that really work? Yuan wondered out loud. It should, as long as she doesn't cause a scene in the third heaven. Feng Yuxiang said. I won't do anything like that. I promise. She merely swore with a smile. Sometime later, Yuan teleported them outside the Nameless Emperor's tomb. Meanwhile, outside the Nameless Emperor's tomb, Zhao Hui's eyebrows twitched when he sensed two unfamiliar presences appearing nearby. He stopped cultivating and stood up. Hey, I sensed two presences outside the tomb, and they appeared out of thin air, just like those people who had already left the Nameless Emperor's tomb, he said, notifying Xiong Lu. It must be him. Xiong Lu clenched his fist in anticipation as he turned to look at the entrance of the Nameless Emperor's tomb, and sure enough, there were now two individuals who weren't there just moments ago, a young man and a young woman. Xiong Lu focused on the young man, and a wide smile appeared on his face when he recognized Yuan's face. It's really him. That's him. Xiong Lu confirmed for Zhao Hui. I finally have a chance to beat him up. Xiong Lu immediately started walking towards Yuan, but he was quickly stopped by Zhao Hui. They're both peak Spirit Kings. You won't even be able to hurt one of them, much less defeat them. Zhao Hui warned him. What? Peak Spirit King? That means he's at the same cultivation level as you. How's that possible? Xiong Lu was shocked to learn that Yuan had already reached peak Spirit King while he was only a first-level Spirit Lord. Fuck. Just as I thought we could mess with him. Xiong cursed. What are you talking about, you idiot? I don't know how they managed to achieve peak Spirit King at that age in this realm, but they're still too young and inexperienced. I won't lose to them even if I have to fight both of them at once. Zhao Wei showed a cold smile on his face, and he stared at Yuan like a hunter before its prey. Stay here and watch how this expert deals with them. It won't take long, either. Zhao Wei proceeded to leave Xiong Lu behind as he started walking in Yuan's direction with a confident aura around him. Follow current novels on Top Novelfool. Com. C1243 A Common Thief. Chapter 1243 A Common Thief 1243 A Common Thief. Shortly after they exited from the Nameless Emperor's tomb, Yuan could sense two individuals watching them from a distance. One of them had the cultivation of first-level Spirit Lord while the other one exuded the presence of a peak Spirit King. Furthermore, the peak Spirit King had a unique aura that felt oddly familiar to Yuan. However, Yuan didn't pay too much attention to them, at least not until the peak Spirit King started approaching them with an aggressive look on his face. We have company, Yuan said to Shimeli, who was absorbed by the Nameless Emperor's tomb's entrance. They turned their attention to the approaching figure and saw Zhao Wei strolling toward them, his posture slightly hunched. He was a tall, somewhat skinny man with long, messy black hair. His violet eyes had a sharp and slightly menacing look, almost like that of a troublemaker. In fact, his clothes seemed similar to what a bandit might wear. He seems like trouble, Shimeli muttered as she caught sight of him. Yuan nodded and said, he may appear as a Spirit King, but he possesses power that surpasses it. Besides a few individuals I've met in the Nameless Emperor's tomb, I've never seen a Spirit King as powerful as him, and those few individuals came from the upper heavens. So he's from the upper heavens? What do you suppose he wants from us? Surely, he's not going to ask us for directions. Brother Yuan, that man is an exile. Xiao Hua's voice suddenly resounded. What? An exile? No wonder why his aura seems so familiar. What's an exile? Shimeli asked. I'll explain it after this, Yuan said. What do you think he wants from us? He proceeded to ask Xiao Hua. I don't know. Perhaps he can sense you. Yuan suggested that Zhao Wei was actually here for Xiao Hua. No, that's not possible. Xiao Hua immediately rejected such a possibility. Then let's just wait and see what he wants. Xiao Hua, stay hidden for now. Once Zhao Wei was close enough, Yuan asked him, how can we help you? Zhao Wei halted in front of Yuan and silently stood there, looking disinterested, as though he regarded them with the same indifference one might reserve for ants. Receiving no response from Zhao Wei, Yuan continued, if you're not inclined to speak, then, mid-sentence, Zhao Wei abruptly sprang into action, thrusting his claw-like hand directly toward Yuan's throat with the intention to kill. Zhao Wei's lightning-fast movement caught Shimeli off guard, leaving her momentarily stunned. However, Yuan's quick reflexes allowed him to evade the sneak attack by tilting his body to the side, narrowly dodging it. In that suspended moment, time seemed to stand still as everyone tried to comprehend what had just occurred. Oh. You managed to dodge that? You're a little better than I thought. Zhao Wei spoke with a slightly surprised look on his face. How dare you? When she snapped out of her daze, Shimeli angrily threw a punch at Zhao Wei. And while she was angry at Zhao Wei for attacking Yuan, she was more angry at herself for not being able to react to it, as their journey could have ended before it even started right there and then. Whoa! Zhao Wei exclaimed in a playful manner right as he dodged Shimeli's strike, even doing so with ease. What? Shimeli was surprised to see this, and she prepared to chase after him. However, she was stopped when Yuan grabbed her arm. Wait, he said to her in a calm voice. But he just tried to kill you. I know, but you won't be able to defeat him. As an exile, he's definitely much older and more experienced than he appears. Also, you promised that you wouldn't cause a scene, right? Shimeli gritted her teeth in frustration, but she couldn't argue with him. It was clear that Xiao Hua was a formidable opponent, one that required her to unleash her full strength to deal with. Yet, even with all of her strength, she might not be able to defeat him. Father wasn't joking. The outside world is so much more dangerous, she sighed inwardly. So you know that I am an exile. Xiao Hua was quite surprised when he heard Yuan's words. And he continued, do you also have one by your side? It would make sense why you have such a high cultivation if that's the case. However, I don't see them. Where are they? Don't tell me that they're already dead. I don't see how that is any of your business. Now Yuan was certain that he didn't approach him because of Xiao Hua. What a pity. If that exile was still by your side, I would have killed them myself. Xiao Hua sighed in a regrettable manner. Yuan frowned at his words and asked, why would you want to kill a fellow exile? Why, you ask? Did your exile not tell you anything? As exiles, we race each other to the supreme heavens for our freedom, and there can only be one winner for each race. In other words, we're rivals. Just because we're fellow exiles doesn't make us companions. Xiao Hua sneered. Of course, Yuan knew the purpose of the supreme heaven's legacy. However, he didn't expect exiles to hunt each other as well. I think I've grasped the situation, Yuan suddenly stated with a discerning tone. If you didn't approach us due to my association with an exile, then it's likely you're carrying out the orders of your elusive master, the one who's been lurking in the shadows all this while. Master. Ahahaha. Xiao Hua burst out laughing. While it's true that I need that weakling to finish the supreme heaven's legacy, it doesn't mean I obey his orders. I approached you because I heard that you had some good treasures on you, not because he told me to. So you're nothing more than a common thief? I was expecting more of you since you're in exile. How disappointing, Yuan remarked, shaking his head. Just a common thief. How dare you? Xiao Hua's body quivered with anger, stung by Yuan's words. Before I became an exile, I was infamous as the harbinger of agony, and just the mere utter of my name would send shivers across the entirety of the 9 heavens. Xiao Hua declared with a hint of pride before continuing in a grim voice, now, I shall teach you the meaning of agony. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. C1244 A Growing Sense of Purposelessness. Chapter 1244 A Growing Sense of Purposelessness 1244 A Growing Sense of Purposelessness, Harbinger of Agony, huh? Even if you were once the most renowned thief in history, what can you achieve in your present condition? Yuan taunted with a sneer. Ha ha ha. Just because my cultivation is currently sealed doesn't mean I have lost all of my experience and techniques. Even if I was only a spirit lord, would still have no trouble dealing with a useless weakling like you. Xiao Hua laughed heartily in response. Since you sound so confident, let's stop the chattering and get this over with already, Yuan said as he summoned his Empyrean overlord. However, a calm voice suddenly resounded in his head, Brother Yuan, can you let me handle this? Xiao Hua. I didn't tell you this before, but it is an exile's responsibility to protect their master, especially when in the presence of another exile. Even if you say that, I can handle him by myself. What's more, I don't want you to get hurt if we can avoid it. Nevertheless, Xiao Hua's resolve held steadfast as she spoke from the depths of her heart. It is undeniable that Brother Yuan has grown in strength to a point where my protection is no longer necessary, and I take great pride in your growth. However, Brother Yuan, you need not shoulder the weight of everything alone, even if you could. There exist endeavors I must undertake, for without them, I risk losing the very essence of my purpose. Ever since Yuan had grown strong enough to protect himself, Xiao Hua had grappled with a growing sense of purposelessness, even more so when he gained companions capable of assuming all the roles she had once fulfilled, and she hated this emptiness that was quickly consuming her. Xiao Hua. Yuan fell into silence after hearing her dejected words. He had dedicated himself to rigorous training to alleviate the burden on Xiao Hua, so that she would no longer need to endanger herself for him, but in his pursuit of strength, he had overlooked Xiao Hua herself. Hey! Why the hell are you just standing there in a daze? Where did your arrogance and spirit from just a moment vanish to? Xiao Hua suddenly roared, his voice laced with frustration when Yuan randomly stopped paying attention to him. In response, Yuan stored the Empyrean overlord away and looked at Xiao Hua with a profound expression. Such actions greatly befuddled Xiao Hua. Looks like you have suddenly come to the realization that you cannot defeat me. Unfortunately, I won't spare you even if you no longer have a desire to fight. Just as Xiao Hua retrieved his weapon, a saber, Yuan spoke, sorry, but there's been a change of plans. As much as I want to kick your ass myself, my little guardian angel will be doing the beating. The next moment, a small figure emerged from Yuan's body and stood before him and Xiao Hua. Huh? A child? Xiao Hua raised an eyebrow in bewilderment. Yet, as his eyes locked onto Xiao Hua's face, a peculiar sense of familiarity washed over him, as if he had encountered her before. Fuck. I swear I have seen that face somewhere before, but where? Despite his efforts to unearth the memory of her identity, Xiao Hua's mind remained frustratingly blank, unable to recollect who she might be. However, he could tell that she was an exile just like him from the aura she was exuding. I thought your exile had died, but it turned out to be much worse. Imagine choosing a child like that to guide you. Ahaha. I can't. Xiao Hua laughed again. And if you think I won't kill a child, you should know that I have done worse, he continued with a cold expression a moment later. Xiao Hua didn't respond to him and retrieved two large swords, wielding one in each of her small hands. Humph. I don't know how you guys managed to crawl your way to the third heaven, but this is where your legacy ends. Xiao Hua released his cultivation base, and without any warning, disappeared from his spot. After using his movement technique, Xiao Hua appeared behind Xiao Hua in the blink of an eye, almost as though he teleported, and he swung his saber at her neck without any hesitation. Clang! Xiao Hua quickly twisted her body around and swung back, blocking the attack. Xiao Hua would disappear again when his feet touched the ground, appearing behind Xiao Hua again. Whoosh! Xiao Hua dodged the attack with her own movement technique before chasing after him with her swords in motion. So slow. Xiao Hua sneered in disdain as he dodged her attack with ease. Meanwhile, she merely asked Yuan, "Are you sure this is a good idea?" Xiao Hua seems to be a little behind. This is what she wanted, and I have faith in her, Yuan declared with a serene countenance. I don't think I've ever seen her being this serious before. Feng Yuxiang remarked with a hint of surprise. Lan Yingying agreed. Over the next several minutes, Xiao Hua and Xiao Hua exchanged hundreds of relentless blows with each other with neither of them getting a direct hit. However, it was clear to the spectators that Xiao Hua was slowly being pushed back by Xiao Hua, who was much faster and more agile. I will applaud you for lasting this long, but it's obvious that you won't be able to defend for much longer. Just as he said this, Xiao Hua managed to barely land a hit on Xiao Hua. However, when he anticipated seeing her blood, he was left astounded to find that Xiao Hua remained completely unharmed, only that there was a small cut on her clothes. What? How is that possible? Xiao Hua was certain that his blade had reached her flesh, yet had only managed to cut her clothes. As Xiao Hua stood stupefied by the perplexing outcome, Xiao Hua examined the tear in her attire with a faint furrow of her brow. Oddly, she didn't seem to be concerned, even though she had seemingly lost the exchange. Follow current novels on Top Novelfool.com. C1245 Xiao Hua. Chapter 1245 Xiao Hua. 1245 Xiao Hua. My saber definitely reached her. Yet, why isn't there a scratch on her? Why isn't she bleeding out? Xiao Hua could never mistake the feeling of slicing flesh, so he was absolutely certain that had reached her, but he could not explain the results. Meanwhile, Xiao Hua had an annoyed look on her face, but not because she had just lost the exchange. My clothes. She muttered in a low voice. I don't know what you just did to avoid that attack, but it won't happen a second time. Xiao Hua tightened his grip on the saber before rushing at Xiao Hua again, his speed much faster than previously, almost as though he had been holding back. How annoying. Xiao Hua muttered as she confronted Zhao Hui with her swords. Herald of Agony. Zhao Hui swiftly employed one of his techniques, conjuring a large, obsidian-hued, shadowy circle on the ground, directly beneath Xiao Hua's feet. Reacting instantly, Xiao Hua leaped out of the circle's grasp. Yet, to her surprise, the shadowy formation clung to her like a relentless specter, maintaining its position beneath her. In response to this relentless pursuit, Xiao Hua made a swift decision to ascend into the sky. However, as she made her move, the edges of the black circle abruptly rose from the earth, ensnaring her within a pitch-black ball. Hey! That doesn't look good at all. Shouldn't we help her? Mei's voice trembled with concern as she observed the dire situation unfolding before them. Yuan calmly shook his head and said, "Don't underestimate her, she'll be fine." Ha ha ha. No matter what tricks you have up your sleeves, your spiritual energy has been sealed by my Herald of Agony. Once trapped by it, you're just a sitting duck waiting to be slaughtered. Zhou Hui laughed like a maniac as he started slashing and stabbing his saber at the void-like prison that had Xiao Hua trapped inside. I can feel it. I can feel your flesh being torn apart by my saber. Nothing beats this sensation. Ahahaha. Xiao Hua. Yuan subconsciously gritted his teeth. He would be lying if he said that he wasn't worried about Xiao Hua. However, his confidence and trust in her far outweighed his worries. 1,000 years of agony. Zhao Hui's saber suddenly became covered in black energy before swinging it at the prison. Shaw! The prison was sliced in half, alongside everything trapped inside. Mei covered her mouth, trying her best to remain calm. Zhao Hui took several deep breaths afterward, and without looking at his results, he began approaching Yuan with intense bloodlust in his gaze. After taking just a few steps, Zhao Hui's movements froze when a calm voice resounded behind him. Where do you think you are going? What? Zhao Hui muttered in disbelief. Impossible. No. There's no way that you could have survived that. Zhao Hui's gaze shifted slowly, and his eyes widened in profound shock when he beheld Xiao Hua standing calmly behind him, completely unscathed save for a few additional cuts on her clothing. No way. How did she do that? Even Mei was completely shocked to see Xiao Hua unharmed. Despite Zhao Hui's inquiries, Xiao Hua remained conspicuously silent, almost as though she wanted to torment him mentally. Following her silence, Xiao Hua proceeded to stow away her weapons, leaving everyone present, including Yuan, profoundly perplexed. I didn't want to show Brother Yuan this side of me, but I won't be able to defeat him unless I do so. Xiao Hua sighed inwardly, and continuing her confusing actions, she closed her eyes before her enemy. You dare close your eyes before my presence? Don't you dare look down on me, you little bitch. Zhao Hui let out a thunderous roar, his form enveloped in a dark, blood-tinged aura. Remaining firmly planted in his position, Zhao Hui swung his saber with astounding swiftness at Xiao Hua, unleashing a series of razor-edged waves of saber aura. The next moment, Zhao Hui watched as his saber aura sliced right through Xiao Hua's small body, cutting it in half. However, no blood was shed by Xiao Hua, and the severed portions of her body dispersed like mist, as if her very essence had transformed into vapor, leaving behind a cloud of purple-colored mist. In a matter of seconds, the purple mist reassembled itself, shaping into a completely unharmed Xiao Hua. Mei's astonishment was palpable as she blurted out, "What sort of technique is that?" Meanwhile, Zhao Hui's countenance contorted with sheer terror, his words trembling as he grappled with the realization of Xiao Hua's identity. That's... No. It can't be. He appeared unwilling to accept the undeniable truth. In that precise moment, Xiao Hua's eyes gently flickered open, their once familiar hue now transformed into a mysterious shade of violet. Simultaneously, a dark aura enveloped her form, tinged with an eerie touch of ethereal purple. As Xiao Hua's menacing aura solidified, an ominous transformation seized the very surroundings. The heavens above them abruptly darkened, and a chill settled upon the atmosphere, akin to the arrival of the Grim Reaper himself. Not only did Xiao Hua's presence undergo a profound metamorphosis, but she also experienced a slight growth in stature, and her face appeared more mature and carried an icy, distant demeanor. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Hua underwent such a drastic transformation that even Yuan struggled to recognize her by the end of it. In fact, it felt like he was looking at an entirely different individual. Ding. Name, Xiao Hua, Servant Grade, Mythical, Master, Yuan, Cultivation, 9th Level Spirit King, Legacy, Supreme Heaven's Legacy plus Evil God's Legacy, Bloodline, Evil God's True Bloodline, Physique, Violet Nebula Physique. In addition to her new status, Xiao Hua also acquired several new techniques that were not there before. In a voice quivering with terror, Zhao Hui cried out, "That ominous violet aura, that overwhelming presence. You're a member of the Azura clan? Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com." C1246 Xiao Hua's Drastic Transformation. Chapter 1246 Xiao Hua's Drastic Transformation. 1246 Xiao Hua's Drastic Transformation. That's Xiao Hua. What happened to her? She feels like an entirely different person. Feng Yuxiang muttered in a dazed voice. If one could see her face right now, it would be filled with astonishment. Following her profound transformation, Xiao Hua gazed upon her surroundings with a newfound and captivating curiosity, yet her expression remained emotionless. After looking at her surroundings, Xiao Hua began inspecting her own body. What's wrong with this body? How long have I been asleep? She muttered in a low voice. In the midst of her inspection, Zhao Hui exclaimed, No. That's not possible. You cannot be from the Azura clan. I recognize every member of the Azura clan, but I do not recognize you. You must be an imposter. After coming to this conclusion, Zhao Hui quickly regained control over his own emotions and calmed down. That's right. Now that I think about it, there's no way someone from the Azura clan would be here. But I must admit, your aura is so convincing that even I nearly fell for it. Unfortunately for you, I know every member of the Azura clan, and you're not one of them. Upon hearing Zhao Hui's words, Xiao Hua turned to look at him with a nonchalant expression. An imposter. She mumbled in a low voice. Of course. If you think about it, there's no way in hell the Celestial Emperor would allow the Azura clan to partake in the Supreme Heaven's legacy. That family of traitors and bloodthirsty demons would rot first before they get a chance at freedom. Zhao Hui laughed nervously. However, Xiao Hua remained nonchalant, and she spoke a moment later. And who the hell are you? Did I really wake up for an ant like you? No, that's not possible. Xiao Hua's words made it seem like she was meeting Zhao Hui for the first time, which made everyone there raise an eyebrow. Whatever. I'll quickly kill you and go back to sleep. I need to save as much energy as I can before he returns. With a casual flick of her sleeve, Xiao Hua conjured a black sword forged from her very own aura and wielded it. I'd love to see you try, seeing how you couldn't even catch my shadow just moments ago. Zhao Hui sneered in disdain as he activated his movement technique. Zhao Hui's figure disappeared like a ghost the next moment. Despite this, Xiao Hua remained standing still with a bored look on her face. Can you speed it up a bit? I'll fall asleep before you make a move at this rate. Xiao Hua asked right before she released a big yawn. Die. When Zhao Hui suddenly appeared behind Xiao Hua, his saber was already millimeters from reaching Xiao Hua's small neck. Yet, it halted just a hair's breadth away from her neck. What? Zhao Hui cried out in astonishment as he realized what stopped his saber. With a mere 2 fingers, Xiao Hua had effortlessly caught the saber by the blade and halted its movements as though it were a scene out of some action movie. In the following moment, without even looking back, Xiao Hua's arm exhibited a fleeting flicker, vanishing and reappearing faster than the blink of an eye. Erf! Zhao Hui unleashed a bone-chilling scream as all 4 of his limbs were separated from his body instantaneously with unimaginable pain spread throughout. After Zhao Hui's limbless body fell to the ground, Xiao Hua turned around to look at him with a disappointed look on her face. I've slumbered for so long that my movements have grown rigid. Most displeasing indeed. I cannot afford to show such a shameful performance in his presence, Xiao Hua lamented. I've decided. I'll go back to sleep after I do some stretching. Xiao Hua then extended her finger, directing it towards Zhao Hui, who remained in a state of shock, motionless on the ground. Get up. Xiao Hua muttered as she released some of her black aura at Zhao Hui, engulfing his body like flames. In the next moment, a shocking spectacle unfolded as Zhao Hui's body miraculously began to regenerate its lost limb. What? What did you just do to me? Zhao Hui screamed in a terrified manner as he crawled backward and away from Xiao Hua. Be grateful, for this princess has bestowed upon you the privilege of a little more time in this world, Xiao Hua declared with a grim smile on her face. And no. Stay away from me, you monster. Zhao Hui cried out, his previous combativeness replaced by sheer terror as he gazed upon Xiao Hua as if she were a nightmarish creature. Don't tell me you're frightened by this impostor? How mundane. If you're not willing to stand and fight, there's little reason to prolong your existence any further, Xiao Hua remarked with an air of disdain. It was in this very moment that Zhao Hui recognized Xiao Hua's face, albeit slightly altered from his recollections. His eyes widened in sheer horror as he stammered, why you can't be Azura clan's little Sha. Zhao Hui's head suddenly flew off its body before he could finish his sentence. After Zhao Hui's death, a profound and eerie silence enveloped the entire vicinity. I don't think that's Xiao Hua. It can't be her. Lan Yingying suddenly broke the silence. I'm inclined to agree. The disparity is too striking, Feng Yuxiang concurred with a shared sense of disbelief. Yuan gritted his teeth and began approaching her. Xiao Hua, he called out to her. Xiao Hua's body trembled slightly after hearing her name. Who dares utter that name in my presence? Xiao Hua's voice thundered with wrath as she whirled around to confront Yuan, her aura surging with a tempestuous intensity. Prepare to endure 1,000 times the torment this insignificant insect just faced. Without any hesitation, Xiao Hua pointed her sword at him. You don't recognize me? Yuan swallowed nervously at this possibility. As if I would remember a weakling like you, Xiao Hua's voice abruptly halted. You. Her eyes were as wide as saucers as she stared at Yuan's face. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Com. Chapter 1247. Published at 23rd of October 2023 8:57 and 9 seconds AM. Chapter 1247. 1247. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1247. Xiao Hua's Drastic Transformation. 2. 1247. Xiao Hua's Drastic Transformation. 2. You. Xiao Hua's speech faltered as her thoughts raced to formulate her next words. Ah. Suddenly, Xiao Hua let out a sharp cry of pain. Xiao Hua? Are you all right? Yuan exclaimed with deep concern in his voice. Xiao Hua dropped her sword, which dissipated into thin air upon contact with the ground, and she began to stagger, clutching her head in evident distress. No. Wait. Not now. Just a few more minutes. There is still something that I must do. Xiao Hua exclaimed, her words appearing as if she were in a conversation with herself. She looked at Yuan and extended one of her hands toward him, almost as though she was longing for him. You. Who are you? Why do you look like, ah? With one final scream, Xiao Hua lost consciousness and collapsed to the ground, and her appearance began reverting back to normal. Xiao Hua. Yuan quickly went to pick her up, but there was no response from her. He immediately checked her vitals, sighing in relief upon confirming that she was still alive. Is she okay? She merely rushed over when she snapped out of her shock. Yes, she's just sleeping. Yuan nodded. Anyways, what in heaven's name just happened? Who is Xiao Hua? Mei's body shuddered in fear just recalling Xiao Hua's chilling aura and overbearing presence. Xiao Hua is an exile, someone banished from the 9 heavens because of a crime they or someone in their family had committed. In her case, her family had committed some kind of crime and became exiles. If they are banished from the 9 heavens, how is she here? That other guy as well. She merely asked the first question that came to her mind. Because exiles are given a chance at freedom through the Supreme Heaven's legacy. I don't know the details, but if an exile fulfills this legacy, they will be able to get rid of their status as an exile and return to the 9 heavens without being hunted by the entire world. I see. Her family must have done something unspeakable if someone like that guy was that terrified of her family. She merely sighed as she glanced at Xiao Hui's headless body. Yuan wanted to defend the Azura clan, but after witnessing Xiao Hua's aura that reeked of blood, he couldn't utter a word. C1248 The Secret to Player Yuan's Progression. Chapter 1248 The Secret to Player Yuan's Progression 1248 The Secret to Player Yuan's Progression. After logging off the game, Xiong Lu shouted in anger as he tossed the console at the wall, shattering the headpiece. Damn it. Who the fuck was that little girl? How did she manage to butcher Xiao Hui, who claimed to be an immortal, as though he was a mere baby? And why is someone like that with Yuan? Xiong Lu couldn't believe what had just witnessed. However, once he thought about it, it finally made sense why Yuan was progressing so fast when compared to other players, not to mention his tremendous prowess. It must be due to that little girl. She must be the source of his strength. She must be a true immortal while Xiao Hui was a fake. Fuck. Why is he so fucking lucky? Upon hearing the commotion inside Xiong Lu's room, the servant waiting outside knocked on the door and inquired with a concerned voice, "Is everything all right, young Master Xiong?" After a moment of silence, Xiong Lu responded in a commanding voice, "Summon everyone to the round table immediately. Tell them that I have some new information on player Yuan." "All right, away." The servants scurried to call the 10 great families. Several hours later, 10 individuals sat around a round table made of white marble. However, 9 of these individuals did not have a physical body and appeared to be projections. The round table consisted of the top player from each of the top 10 legacy families, so prominent individuals such as Fiery Queen and White Lotus were present. "Hey, Xiong Lu, you'd better not be bluffing about having information on player Yuan. I was in the middle of heading to a dungeon," one of them declared in a discontented tone. "I'm more intrigued by your sudden willingness to share information about player Yuan," Fiery Queen remarked. "I doubt hell share it with us for free." Another sneered. "Enough of the pointless chattering and let's get to the topic." "I want to return to my cultivation as soon as possible," said a bulky man. Xiong Lu then spoke, "I won't charge anyone for this information since I believe we should work together to catch up to player Yuan." "Catch up to player Yuan? Are you out of your mind, Xiong Lu?" retorted another member. "I may not know his exact cultivation level, but I'm well aware that he possesses treasures beyond our reach for years to come. It might sound preposterous at the moment, but what if I were to tell you that I've uncovered the secret to player Yuan's inexplicable growth and formidable strength?" Xiong Lu spoke with a solemn expression. "You what?" The revelation left everyone at the round table utterly stunned. "Are you for real, Xiong Lu? You better not be pulling my fucking legs." Fiery Queen stood up and slammed the desk. The sound of her smacking her own table would resound through her speaker, but the actual table remained unmoving. The Secret to Yuan's Strength. Bai Lihua muttered with a slight frown on her face as she continued, "How can we even trust this information?" Xiong Lu glanced at her and said, "Because I witnessed it with my own eyes." "You met with Yuan?" "Yes, in the 3rd heaven." "If you're serious, then don't keep us in suspense, Xiong Lu." The others, understandably impatient, were eager to hear the details of this potentially monumental discovery. Xiong Lu nodded and proceeded to ask them, "Before I tell you his secret, I have a question for all of you. Do you know what an exile is? Are you asking us for the definition? Be more clear." Xiong Lu shook his head and said, "No, I am talking in the context of cultivation online." There are certain individuals in that world that are known as exiles. Do you know about them? A few individuals there had subtle movements on their faces after Xiong Lu's clarification, yet none of them responded to his question. Xiong Lu noticed this and sneered, so a few of you in here are already aware of their existence. Don't worry, I'm not going to blame you for wanting to keep their existence to yourself, as they are the key to progressing fast in cultivation online. And there's no point to keep it to yourself any longer since I will be exposing them to everyone today. What? What on earth are you talking about? What are these exiles? Fiery Queen demanded, her curiosity piqued. Someone who wasn't Xiong Lu suddenly responded, there are powerful NPCs within cultivation online that carry a legacy known as the Supreme Heaven's Legacy. These individuals are essentially criminals that have been banished to the Primordial realm, hence why they are called exiles. In exchange for helping them complete their legacy, which grants them freedom, they will assist you in many ways, such as granting you knowledge and techniques that aren't accessible elsewhere, and protecting you from harm, like a guardian angel. These exiles are very powerful and are usually immortal cultivators, so they have many priceless knowledge and techniques that will greatly assist your progression in cultivation online. If you have an exile by your side, you will, without a doubt, progress countless times faster than those without one. The only downside is that you'll be hunted by other NPCs if they find out you are working with an exile. And since they are criminals, they have questionable morals and will do nasty things that you need to turn a blind eye to if you want their help. The room fell dead silent afterward. Those who did not know about the existence of exiles until today tried their best to digest the information, while those who are already aware of their existence pondered about their own exiles. Eventually, someone there broke the silence. Xiong Lu, are you trying to tell us that player Yuan's secret is that he has an exile by his side? If so, I'd already come to that conclusion when I met mine. Me too. However, that still doesn't make any sense. I also have an exile by my side, but I still can't seem to catch up to him. Though, I only met my exile about a month ago, so that might be the real reason why I am still behind. Chen Huacheng, you sly bastard. How could you keep this information to yourself? Aren't we in the same alliance? Fiery Queen gritted her teeth in frustration, feeling left out. Humph, don't give me that crap. If you were in my shoes, you would have done the same thing. Chen Huacheng sneered. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. Calm. C1249 Working Together. Chapter 1249 Working Together. 1249 Working Together. So, how many of us here are being accompanied by an exile? Chen Huacheng asked them before raising his own hand. And he continued, I met mine a month ago, and my progress has skyrocketed since then. 3 more individuals there raised their hands. Wilson Jr., Jing Yanwu, and Gu Banxiao, huh? Fiery Queen named these 3. Xiong Lu, you don't have an exile? Chen Huacheng asked him. And no. Xiong Lu hesitated, unable to divulge the grim truth that his exile had already met their demise at Yuan's hands, as he was certain that they would make him into a laughingstock for such a blunder. So, 4 out of 10 of us have an exile, huh? This makes me wonder just how many more players out there are receiving assistance from them, mused Jing Yanwu, a young man with a scholarly appearance. Wait. How does one even acquire an exile? Fiery Queen suddenly asked. She turned to look at the 4 with an exile and continued, how did you guys meet yours? Is there a specific location where you meet them? As far as I am aware, they don't have any specific locations or triggers. They are scattered about in the 9 heavens, so it's entirely up to fate whether you encounter one or not, kind of like hidden quests. Wilson Jr. said, and he continued, I encountered my exile in 2nd heaven about 3 months ago during a quest. I also encountered mine randomly while adventuring in 3rd heaven. Gu Banxiao added. Same here. Chen Huacheng chimed in. Damn it. There must be some kind of pattern or method to encounter them. Queen Fiery exclaimed in frustration, her desire for an exile's assistance burning within her. At this rate, it'll end up lagging behind everyone, even to some nobody who lucked out with an encounter, like player Yuan. Fiery Queen's concerns were shared by those without an exile. It was becoming increasingly evident that having an exile's assistance was pivotal to their success and the disparity between those with and without an exile would only widen as time passed. Now that I think about it, player Yuan received a divine grade servant even before the second heaven was unlocked. It's no wonder that his progression was so much faster than the rest of us. That bastards had help from an exile from the start since first heaven. Li Hongji, who did not have an exile, exclaimed in vexation. Xiong Lu then spoke, not just that. His exile was terrifyingly powerful. I watched her slay a peak spirit king without breaking a sweat. It was like watching an adult messing around with a damn toy. I have never seen anyone that dreadful before. The room fell silent for a moment until someone said, anyways, what do you want us to do with this information? After a moment of silence, Xiong Lu spoke in a cold voice. His exile may be powerful, but I doubt she's strong enough to handle multiple exiles at once. If we group up and kill the exile, player Yuan's progression will definitely come to a halt, and we'll no longer have to worry about him. He's useless without the exile. What? That's unacceptable. I refuse to be a part of this cowardly nonsense. Bai Lihua declared as she stood up, her face filled with anger. Xiong Lu looked at her and sneered in disdain. Why? Because you're screwing him? What the hell is that supposed to mean? Bai Lihua's brow furrowed deeply, her gaze oozing with killing intent. Did you think we wouldn't find out about what happened between your Bai family and the Jing family? I wouldn't be surprised if you had offered your body to him for his services. Why else would he bother paying attention to the Bai family? You utter bastard, Xiong Lu. How dare you slander me with that load of crap? It's clear you're just bitter because Yuan knocked you off your high horse. And your desire to gang up on him is nothing but a testament to your own inadequacy. You're nothing more than a damn coward and a sore loser. Bai Lihua seethed with rage, her words dripping with contempt. You dare mock me? I've been number one even before you started playing your first game, White Lotus. Do you think he's beaten me just because he got a little lucky with an exile? Delusional. Xiong Lu roared back, his heart filled with rage. Delusional or not, it's still a fact that Yuan's above you in cultivation online and in real life. You're just in denial. Fuck. Don't you let me see you in the game. I swear I will make you regret mocking me, White Lotus, you fucking bitch. Calm down, both of you, the others intervened, attempting to defuse the escalating tension in the room. Humph. If you want to group up and fight Yuan, go ahead. I won't be part of it. In fact, even if everyone here gangs up on him, you won't win. Goodbye. Without saying another word, Bai Lihua's avatar disappeared from the room. After Bai Lihua left, the room descended into a heavy silence, punctuated only by the audible sound of Xiong Lu's labored breathing. I won't waste any more of my breath. If you don't want to work with me to deal with player Yuan, you may get out of my sight right now. However, just know that you will never receive the Xiong family support ever again if you refuse to help. The others swallowed nervously in the wake of his ominous words. Although they might not have appeared particularly significant on the surface, the Xiong family held a formidable and influential position in the world, maintaining their coveted rank at the pinnacle of the legacy rankings for well over a century. They were definitely a powerhouse that one cannot afford to offend. When nobody left the room even after a whole minute, Xiong Lu sat back down and nodded. Good, then let us begin. Wait a moment. Fiery Queen suddenly interrupted. What is it? Xiong Lu glared at her. What should we do with White Lotus? She knows of our plans and will definitely snitch to player Yuan. I'm sure she will do just that, but there's no need to worry. Even if she does tell player Yuan about our plans, they won't know when or how it will happen, and player Yuan will have to constantly watch his back. Xiong Lu said. If you say so. Fiery Queen nodded. Follow current novels on Top Novel Fool. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.